many people did you see back there when you were touring?
John, you want to take it?
Well, I think yesterday they had something like 3,300 come across, and that's before, the change in policy. Title 42, of course, expires tonight. So we're understanding that could easily double after Title 42 expires. And so that's the point we're making. You've got to change policy. They're already overwhelmed. You've already got a border crisis. So we've got to see a change in policy. And that was the question put to Brandon Judd. The CBP and Border Patrol, they could get control of this right now, but they've got to have the tool to do it. You need the change in policies that I talked about, to remain in Mexico, the third safe country. You've got to make sure that people who want to apply for asylum do it from their country or the first safe country they come to, and then we will have control of the border. That's what needs to happen, and it needs to happen now.
And let me supplement the answer. Let me supplement the answer to that. Let me supplement the answer to that, which is, we saw back there a couple of hundred people that were sitting there being processed. But right now, the Biden administration has sped up their processing so that they can process an illegal immigrant in about 2 minutes. They are sending 40 or more buses a day, full buses, full of illegal immigrants, to detention facilities. So as fast as they scan them in, they pull out a phone, they scan their documents, they take whatever they say, name, age, what country you're from, and boom, they put them on a bus and send them to facilities. To give you a sense, the facilities here can hold roughly 4,600 people. Yesterday, they had 7,000. So you know what they did? They had to release hundreds of people, just release them into the communities. And, a minute ago, you asked about what other states are doing for South Texas. I appreciate that. Because, look, South Texas is bearing the brunt of this. What the Biden administration is doing to South Texas is wrong. The hospitals here are full. The prisons here are full. The schools here are full. The farmers and ranchers see the dead bodies every day from this travesty. And all Joe Biden wants to do is have more people come illegally.
What are you
Senator, you have voted down multiple times for policies. So what specifically the Republican members that are here today, what have you all done to help Joe Biden in this?
Okay. All right. So that's a ridiculous and silly question. I want to commend you for being the media and telling a Democrat policy. So let me ask you something.
Come on, man. That's been going on for 20 years.
Okay. Hey, let me ask you something. Let me ask you something. What rate of illegal immigration do we have in 2020? Do you know anything? I asked you a question. Do you know anything?
How long have you been in office?
I've been in office 11 years now.
And this has been kicked the count during multiple administrations.
Except you don't get to argue with me. You asked your question. You asked your question. You want to hold a press conference, you can do it over there.
You
want to hold a press conference, you can do it over there.
How are you?
So hold on. I'm going to answer his question. The talking point of the Democrats, which this media reporter happily parrots, is, gosh, the problem can't be fixed. There's one little problem with that. It is an utter and complete lie. In 2020, the last year of the Trump presidency, we had the lowest rate of illegal immigration in 45 years. You ask, what have I done? I've championed the men and women of Border Patrol. I've championed securing the border. I've championed Remain in Mexico. And we turned this problem around and solved it. And we went from Joe Biden inherited the lowest rate of illegal immigration in 45 years. And the first day in office, he made political decisions to cause this problem. And you should be ashamed of yourself, because you're a reporter and you're not reporting facts. You're telling lies. Joe Biden made a political decision, and they turn a blind eye. If you want to know just how much they turn a blind eye, 6 weeks ago in the Judiciary Committee, I questioned Alejandro Mayorkas. I put up a poster board of colored wristbands. And I asked him, Mr. Secretary, what are these colored wristbands? And he said, I don't know. I have no idea. That was the one bit of his testimony that truly shocked me, because just about every illegal immigrant who crosses the border is wearing a colored wristband. They correspond to how many thousands of dollars the immigrants owe the cartels. And the fact that Mayorkas doesn't even know what they are, if you stand on the banks of the Rio Grande River, as I have done many times, you see hundreds or thousands of these wristbands laying in the ground. Sir, I don't know if you stood there, but I know Mayorkas hasn't, because he didn't know what the wristbands were. And that means he hasn't talked to the Border Patrol agents either. It is immoral. And when those kids cross, the teenage boys who owe thousands of dollars to the cartels, the Biden administration flies them to every city in America. They fly them to Kansas. And there, those teenage boys are forced to work for the Mexican drug cartels committing crimes to pay off the money they owe. And if they don't pay it off, they'll murder their families. And I'll tell you, as bad as the boys have it, the girls have it worse. There are thousands upon thousands of teenage girls trapped in sex slavery. And yet, for those of you in the media who don't report on that, you should be ashamed. This is evil. And the reason you don't see any Democrats here is they can't defend this. They're counting on the press not to cover it. It's wrong.
Thank you very much.
The El Paso shooter called it.
All right. I'm going to stop that right there. Eric, I hope you are here and with us. These wristband things. This is, I haven't heard too much about the wristbands when people are crossing over the border. I think you're still muted, Eric. But have you heard about this wristband thing? I mean, we may have, we probably are not very, I don't know what your views are on Ted Cruz. Mine are not too positive or anything, but this is the first time I've heard about the wristband thing. I can tell by your face. Let me see if can we hear you?
He's he's better than any libtard. I mean,
are we how
way
low
up
are we
here.
setting the bar? Well, I mean, the bar is low if we're going to go there, right?
True, but
you're right. Welcome. So these wristband, I'm gonna have to look more into that because
I don't really know about them.
This is the first I've ever heard about these wristbands, but I'm very curious about that, because this just shows how deep this goes. And in California, this has been going on for a long, long time, and it's gotten to the point. And I don't know if you listen to Dan Bongino,
one of my freaking favorites.
But he was saying, so he was talking about this, and he was saying that there are actually illegals who are mad at other illegals because they're taking their job. So it's not just about they're taking folks. I mean, it's crazy. So we've gotten to that point where there was this process. They were coming over here illegally for many, many years. And now with the new Biden thing, they're coming over here. We have a whole new set. So you're going to have a illegal civil war at some point here, where you have the old illegal immigrants versus the new illegal immigrants. This is crazy. I mean, this is what they want to do. What's the book? Confessions of an Economic Hitman. I can't remember. I know his first name is John. I can't remember his last name. But he, kind of talked about this, how they were sucking the straw, just like how you're doing. You're taking a straw and you're sucking it out. They're doing this to these countries. This is what they are doing. Everybody knows.
You're doing this.
Yeah. John. I mean, I have the book downstairs.
Now I know.
You know I'm talking about Confessions from a
Hitman or something.
Economic Hitman. Yeah, which I need to look it up because it's really going to bother me. But this is what he is talking about. Confessions of an Economic Hitman. But this is what he was saying. And when you're, the hell, come on. Even Amazon is not going to show me his name. Come on, guys. Make this easy for me here. Make it look like I know what I'm doing.
Nothing's easy about
John Perkins. John Perkins. Yeah, so that he's written. Thank you, John Perkins. Yeah, he's written some great books, a couple great books. But I mean, that really opened up my eyes to what they were doing to these other countries, and it's happening here now. So they're flooding all of these people into this country, and these cartels. They've been doing this for so long that they can actually filter out and spread things out and spread these people over here, spread them over there into Kansas. Really, they're coming from the southern border and they're flying them into Kansas. I mean, this makes absolutely no sense. This just shows how coordinated this thing is and how we've been dealing with this for so very long. So I do want to say hi to Siren 1. EPA plans on turning the electrical grid off by 2030. Crazy, because imagine what that would do. I mean, can you picture if the power all of us, if the power just goes boom, done, right? There's no more power. How do we connect with each other? How do we really? It's just people are so far gone. It is going to be a crazy world.
Should
If
I not
something
play
like that
this
happens.
right here because of what it says in the title?
Um,
You know what I mean? We're
yeah,
not trying to get strikes, but this was really
yeah.
powerful to me about what Kennedy had to say.
Is this the 30-minute video, or is this
No, this is a
it's a
5-minute
smaller
clip.
5-minute clip?
Should we try?
Um,
Or no? I mean, I understand what.
I
You
mean,
know what? Maybe I'll play something that maybe I'll present something
well, I mean,
a little lighter.
Well, I mean, we gotta talk about this because this is what the whole show is here. This should really be about Kennedy versus Trump. Obviously, I didn't start it off like that, but this is a very interesting issue because if you ask President Trump and if you ask RFK Jr. their thoughts on this, they're going to give you a very similar answer. So you have a Democrat, RFK Jr., you have Donald Trump. They're going to give you a similar answer on these people that are pouring into this country. Now, it has a lot to do with people who may be sick, people who may have a virus, people who may be bringing those viruses over there. We have forgotten about the terrorism. This was all about terrorism first, right? This is why they were like, well, wait a minute. Okay, so if I want to fly to another state, I have to go through a pat down. They have to check me out, right? If I don't want to have the body scanner thing and all that, like I can't have a bottle. I can't have a water bottle, a plastic water bottle. There's things that I cannot have to fly on.
You'll have nothing and like it.
Nothing like
Schwab loves to say.
But that's just to fly on a plane. That's not to go to other places. But it's okay for our southern border and our northern border. They don't have an issue with that. It seems like a big double standard to really say that, we need to let all of these people in. We're not going to verify if they're terrorists, right? We don't even talk about that. They don't talk about terrorists anymore. That's okay for us to talk about. Now, we know the other things we can't mention here, but we can't talk about how do terrorists get into this country? And they're still acting like terrorists are going to jump on a plane. Right, but
we just get banned for talking about it.
We just get banned for talking about it.
Right.
And
we're the good guys in history that banned free speech. We'll wait.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's so crazy here how we're and this is one of the things because I was I was a hardcore Democrat after 9/11, really, and I thought that the Democrats had it right. We need to get out of these wars. We should not be in these wars. These wars are bad. And I thought, we need to get George Bush out. And if we just get him out, everything will be great. We'll go back.
That was a great plan.
It was a great plan, right?
Different Democrats too back then, much like Robert Kennedy.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. That's right. And what happened was we got Bush out. George Bush got out, and all of a sudden we have Barack Obama in there who continues to do everything that George Bush was already doing. He did not backtrack on any of these things. He started more wars. It was more of the same.
Him and his husband Michael,
and Biden. And Biden was right. Remember, he was the vice president too, so he was there, right? People have been riding with Biden for 40 years, including a guy named Robert Byrd. If people know who Robert Byrd is, that's why when you hear Joe Biden talking about racism these last few days, it's like, you're talking about racism? You loved Robert Byrd? You're talking about segregation? You've been talking about that for so long.
Racism, abortion rights, blah, blah, all these fucking side issues while they're spraying us.
Yeah. While they're spraying, but that's okay. But let's just flood our borders. And I mean, just getting,
flood our borders.
Flood the borders.
It's been flooding.
Flood the borders.
It's been flooding for years and years.
We don't have a big enough straw to unflood, to take all of that stuff out of this country, everything that they're putting into this. It is just so crazy, because this is the only way they can take down this country is to take it down from the inside. And here is why this is it's such a great concept, and it may never happen. It may be a pipe dream. It may be me putting my head in the cloud, wishing I could fly off into freaking outer space here. But if you have Robert F. Kennedy versus Donald Trump, I believe we could have a healthy debate in this country that is long overdue. I don't know if we've ever had one. Maybe we had one back when a president, the person with the most votes was the president. The second person with the second most votes was the vice president. Maybe we need to go back to something like that. And maybe if we had Donald Trump as the president, and if we had RFK Jr. as a vice president, maybe we could get something like that. But this would be a very healthy debate that is good for this country. And I'm sure, Eric, you would probably agree with this. This is why there are very powerful forces that are going to do everything they can to make sure this doesn't happen. My question to you, Eric, is who would they kill first, RFK Jr. or Donald Trump?
Well, would they kill them, or would they replace them with clones? I mean, who knows at this point? What we have now is a bunch of very bitter, wide awake people who don't trust anybody or anything. They trust nobody. The amount of people who have said Bongino, he was Secret Service and blah blah blah, and the guy is just. There's absolutely no benefit to Tucker Carlson or Dan Bongino being freaking kicked off social media, being kicked off Fox News. It's only hurt that there's no benefit to them whatsoever for that to happen. And much like AJ, Alex Jones, being banned from freaking social media completely. There was no benefit to him. There were people saying, well, they're getting more followers and blah. No, it will not. YouTube is still the number one platform. And
Yes.
That's why Greg and I are very, very careful in choosing our words that we use.
Sucks.
Because we use the wrong word. If we don't say vaccine, if we use the V, we're screwed. So, I mean, it's ridiculous. But I do think, Greg, that I have a clip that we can actually play on YouTube without getting banned at this point, which was very telling of another platform which doesn't ban anything.
Okay. Right before you do that, I just want to thank Siren. Siren says, I'm from Kansas. The aliens, I'm sure he means, we know what they're aliens. They look just like me, apparently. Aliens always come every year to pick the watermelon and other work. They made friends with me and them after I grew up and met them again. Not a Democrat, not a Republican, and not voting for Trump, but definitely paying attention to what is going on into this country, as we all should be. So here we go.
Wow. RFK Jr., man. Robert Kennedy Jr., he made his official announcement that he is entering the race for the Democratic presidential nominee. Yes. It was a very, very fascinating speech he gave. He talked to, of course, about the horror of lockdowns. He decried endless wars, the corporate corruption in our government, most especially.
Before I sound better or worse with what I just did?
Whatever did at the end caused to echo.
Okay, so I will take that off.
It was fine when you first started.
Gotcha. And here we go.
Especially big pharma, the tyrannical crackdown on our civil liberties, and our insane suicidal policy in Ukraine. It really was a bona fide populist speech where he championed the concerns of the people as over and against the elites in our ruling class. It was a thoroughly anti-war speech. It was a speech that defended the freedoms of the people versus the corruptions and the tyrannies of the permanent political class. And even the legacy media is now being forced to admit that he's showing very impressive strength against Biden. USA Today reported that 14% of Biden voters said they're all in. They're switching to Robert Kennedy Jr. And it's just literally been a couple of days since he announced. And then you add in Marianne Williamson. I think she's getting another 7% or so. And then there's another 10, 15% undecided. So Biden's support is just basically imploding as we speak. Now, what's so significant here is I would argue with this announcement, particularly from RFK Jr., I would argue this is 2016 all over again. This is 2016 all over again, right? Who gave Hillary her biggest run for the money? Who almost stole the nomination mantle from the anointed Hillary? Who was it? And it almost happened again in 2020, right? Bernie Sanders almost got that nomination. A populist leftist almost took the nomination. What's happening here is that the Democratic Party, since Biden got the nomination, the Democrats have actually sown the seeds of the demise of their own neoliberal establishment. The Democrats have actually sown the seeds of the demise of their own neoliberal establishment by guaranteeing a populist revolt within the Democratic Party. So you're having a populist revolt within the Republican Party with the MAGA movement, America First movement, Trump. We'll talk about that in a moment. But you're also seeing a comparable populist movement on the left among the Democrats. And the Democratic elite have guaranteed this would happen. The Democrats guaranteed this backlash, this populist backlash would happen because they shut down any and all debate or discussion regarding things like lockdowns or civil liberties or the vax mandates or social media suppression and censorship. While we know constitutional carry is sweeping the nation, millions of Americans and even you courageous patriots out there, you turley talkers, you're still stuck in blue or weak red states restricting your constitutional right to bear arms. Well, don't worry, gang. Countrywide concealed is probably the quickest way to get carrying legally in the majority of the United States. That's right. You won't just be able to carry in your state, but in 84% of the whole of the US of A. It's as quick as watching a video and taking a quiz. And thanks to Countrywide Concealed, your family is that much safer from a myriad of threats no matter where you go. Getting a concealed carry license has literally never been easier. So just click on that link below and
So you get the idea.
Yeah, definitely concealed carry. I'm with it. No, that was great. Thank you for finding that clip. If you find any other clips too, I've actually taken RFK's speech and I have my written notes here. So I'm actually working on a new book, and I always love to start it, longhand. Is it longhand or shorthand? I don't know what this means.
Long form.
Long form. Thank you.
Longhand form.
Yeah, this is Ron Jeremy form here. So what I've done here is
long form.
Long duck form. But I've 16 candles, baby. But yeah, so I mean, I think it's a great concept. It's a great thing to think about. It may never happen, but wouldn't it be so awesome to have Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on one side and to have Donald Trump on the other side? To me, that would just be an awesome debate, a healthy debate that this country needs. We need that so bad. We don't need another Biden versus Trump. We've had that.
It's hard to believe that would even happen. Like there would be somebody would be indicted for something.
I mean, how do we get RFK?
They'll still indict one of the two.
Well, one of the worst
Biden
things.
will just have a heart attack, and
he may not even make it. He may not make it. But the thing is, Biden came out a couple weeks. So RFK Jr. says he's going to run for the president on April 19th. Less than 1 week later, maybe about one week later, less than 10 days later, Joe Biden pretty much said, or his campaign says, there will not be any Democratic debates. So Biden is not going to debate any other Democratic nominee. It's very important that he did not say this before RFK Jr. said he was going to run for president, unless I got my facts wrong. But what I've seen so far is RFK Jr. comes out and says he is going to run on the Democrat side for the president. Less than 10 days later, Joe Biden's campaign says, and really not Joe Biden's campaign, it's the Democratic Party comes out and says there will be no debates on our side. Now,
Right.
that is very, very telling. How scared are they of RFK Jr.? And they should be scared, by the way. They should be very scared, but this should be a great thing for this country. I am not a Democrat or a Republican either, but this would be an awesome debate because I believe Trump is a third-party candidate, and I believe RFK Jr. is also a third-party candidate. And wouldn't that be awesome if they both took over this two-party system and all of a sudden this bird has 4 wings instead of 2? Wouldn't that be awesome?
Unfortunately, where Trump went really wrong was appointing his vice president, appointing Pence. I mean, that was a Pence didn't back him up on the January 6th or anything. So, you know, I would love to see again Bongino. I freaking love that guy. You know,
too. Yeah.
It's possible Bongino has never run for president because, well, A, they'll take him out, or B, he just doesn't want to deal with that shit because he's going to be a puppet for people. But Dan Bongino is one of the most stand-up guys you'll ever meet, and you still have a whole faction of supposed awake people who they don't trust anybody. Bongino was in the Secret Service and such, and he's been in the upper echelons of, and he's exposing them now. But he's still a bad guy. Anybody who's been there, it's kind of like the anyway. I have another real quick clip loaded up if you want to roll it, and feel free to stop it if they use any words that we shouldn't be using.
I'll let you roll with it.
Dude, I mean, Greg and I go back to when we were actually replaying Handysa clips of, we could do that. But anyway, I think you guys will like this.
Orthodox Jews will say this is their duty. Well, Zionist Jews say it is their duty to destroy Amalek and to wipe out all trace of even the memory of Amalek. And of course, Amalek has become, Amalek goes way back, but it has kind of morphed into the white races, the West. The goal is to destroy the white races of the West so that not even their memory exists in the future.
In America today, we have white supremacy. In the Torah, we had Amalek. Amalek is seen as the eternal enemy of our people, whose members found strength by making us suffer. Therefore, when the Lord your God grants you safety from all your enemies around you, in the land that the Lord your God is giving to you as a hereditary portion, you shall blot out the memory of Amalek from under heaven. Do not forget. Our rabbinic sages parse these sentences and derive 2 distinct meanings. Blotting out the memory of Amalek is a military command, literally to destroy Amalek. Now, facing today's Amalek, we are reminded that the Torah calls us not just to escape, but to extirpate Amalek. We are commanded to do real and literal battle against it. That means coming off the bench in the fight against white supremacy. It means putting our reputations and our money and our physical bodies on the line. But also,
wait, this dude.
Stop it here for a second. I mean,
he's talking about fighting against white supremacy. Can't make that shit up, folks.
It's first of all,
it's a Zionist right there. They're freaking talking about fighting against white supremacy.
Well, if we're talking about, it's so ridiculous.
How do we unpack this?
So ridiculous. I can unpack it in about a couple.
That's what we're seeing on social media constantly, right? This is.
But we shouldn't be seeing this from people.
Dudes like this are telling you to freaking choose a side, black or white. Dudes like this, white supremacy. Even though we are the ultimate Zionist white supremacists.
I would say this: whether you are a Christian like me, whether you're Jewish, whether you're Muslim, they all understand. We all came from one man and one woman. So who cares about races? Who
Right.
cares about all these different racist things? Those are just things that are meant to get us to that are made to divide us. These are the
Yes, and
tools of
is
the devil.
this is your Zionist crew here, the spokesman. Listen, dude, this is gonna blow you away. I'm not gonna play the whole thing.
Oh, please, because I can't. This will blow
I'm
my
gonna play
head
this
off.
guy.
Here.
Yeah, this is in the middle.
So that
This is from Max Egan, the Crow House on BitChute, by the way, folks. And yeah, he's banned from even putting shit out on Facebook.
Well, I
Twitter,
mean, what is the relevance of this here? How is
Right.
this relating? Because it's like these are things that they're trying to divide us with when
Yes.
we really need things that are going to bring us together. Now,
A guy like this is going to save all the minorities from white supremacy, though. Right here, the whitest
from
looking
white
dude.
supremacy,
This is the
even though we
whitest
all came,
dude they could have picked.
even though this person would say we all came from one man and one woman, so it's not really a white supremacy thing. It's really this group versus the other group. There's these people and they believe this thing, and then we have these other people here that they believe this thing.
Satanists
right?
versus non-Satanists.
It sounds like they want to play victim. They want to play
Yes.
victim, so they have to find this evil when we know the one true evil is the devil here. So if we start getting into this, white supremacy thing, which is a real thing, but there are many people that are white that understand that is just BS and that realize that is all garbage and may come to the realization later on. But go ahead, I'll let you.
I'm sure they're going to realize it exactly what you're talking about right now.
we are ready to answer people with radically destructive and incoherent versions of history so that we can counter white supremacists, so that we can counter Amalek and blot them out by retaining on our lips and in our records their history. By being bearers of history, we can help guide the future. Blotting out Amalek need not merely be about military.
Like, wouldn't you think somebody who's speaking like this would be at least black? You got the whitest guy they could have picked talking about.
Well, that's like
white supremacy.
That's like
See
Black
how
Lives
stupid they are,
Matter.
right?
How many Black Lives Matter people do you see out there on the streets that are getting violent? It's usually not a lot of black people. It's usually a lot
This
of
is
white
just
people.
them saying, let's see how dumb they are now. Let's put a dude who looks like a freaking librarian, the whitest guy you could ever freaking see, and talking about stomping out white supremacy.
It kind of looks like
We're gonna eat it up.
he threw a bathrobe over his suit. just wear the suit. The suit looks nice. It's got the nice tie and everything. Get rid of that
If there
bathrobe.
was more red, yellow, and green, it'd be a poncho.
Which I would actually like better than what
Open
he's
borders,
got here.
Conquest. Equally important is ideological victory. And nothing could more readily counter white supremacy than a Jewish community proudly helping our Muslim neighbors.
What?
There is nothing that undermines a white supremacist
I don't
worldview more.
understand.
And
Dude, I told you, dude, this is insane.
diverse communities getting along and building together towards the future.
Okay, but that's not I know that's not what the Bible tells you. I'm pretty sure that's not what the Torah tells you.
That's not what common sense tells you.
That's not what common sense would tell you here.
That's pretty freaky stuff, folks. And
he's right.
Even a lot of politicians are now admitting that this is what's going on.
It seems harder and harder to ignore that the echoes of replacement theory and other racially motivated views are increasingly coming out into the open.
In a few years, we're going to be a majority brown country. White people will not be the majority in the country anymore.
This will be the first generation ever in American history in which whites will be a minority of the generation at some point.
As of 2007, every year, babies being born in this country, whites now are the minority.
In 2044, everyone is going to be a minority.
As the demographics change,
and it's not true though. Nothing they're saying fucking is true.
White people become the minority in the country, which is coming.
Demographics is destiny. Demographics is destiny.
It's the same.
It's all white people saying this.
It's all the news stations parodying the same exact message, which we've shown ad nauseum how they just say the same thing over and over again.
Graphics is destiny, right? The country is changing.
I've been saying it here. Other people have been saying it here for years now, even before Donald Trump. The demographics is destiny.
The white population is declining for
Every fucking radio station saying the same thing in news.
Race baiters. These guys are racist.
Just like they said the same thing with the vaccines. Just like they said the same. My God, here
the first time in history.
Now it's about
they want a race war. They really do want a race war.
Right, because it keeps a war away from them.
Free in America, while the number of multiracial Americans have more than doubled.
So we live in a country where the
So
demographics
what?
are changing. It's becoming less white.
Divide and
Correct.
Okay, you'll be.
What's white? Is Greg white? Greg's Mexican. So what does that make him? Half white, half black? What is that? God.
Announcing that we're calling.
Right, dude. Just
like
what a
Trump,
joke. I'm Irish. What does that make me? I want some reparations because my people were freaking. Well, they were. If you look at it, we were freaking a bigger race. Baited
Slaves too. They were slaves
slave
too.
State than freaking yeah. But where's our reparations? Anyway, here's. I think we can still play. Can we still play this on YouTube? This isn't like. Yeah, we can.
The 38 electoral votes of Texas for the Democratic nominee for president. It's changing. It's going to become a purple state and then a blue state because of the demographics, because of the population growth.
The growth in Texas has been almost entirely driven by non-white population growth.
Gee, I wonder why.
Hey, if you ever wanted to know why to vote for Trump, watch this clip here. This is why you vote for Trump. No, I haven't seen it, but I can already
Mostly
tell.
by Hispanic and Latino population growth.
The idea that whites will not be the majority. I mean, it's an exciting transformation.
Can you pause it right there?
You two white folk talking about.
Can you pause it right there. Look at that. What it's saying. Trump administration. Well, let me go back. Trump administration moves to make citizenship more difficult for immigrants. They're not saying illegal immigrants. He's not making it more difficult for immigrants. He's making it more difficult for human trafficking, for child trafficking, for drug trafficking. This is not about immigration. There is a process for that. There has been a process, and there will always be a process for that. Now, there is a legal process, and there is an illegal process. And if people have problems with the process that is not legal, they need to make that known and say, you know what, we don't like this process. The process takes too long.
Than to go to another country and establish citizenship.
If there's
different in other countries, for the most part, first world countries, than it is here. You have to go through a process to establish citizenship. That makes sense.
Yeah, no, maybe there's too much red tape in this process. I totally get that. So you work to change
There's
that.
really not, though, because you get a visa. You get a year visa or 2-year visa, and then after you establish yourself as a citizen and you're working and you're actually contributing to society, then you will get your citizenship.
Yeah,
that's how easy it is.
It just shows
Trump wants to block this right here. Medicaid, food stamps, and housing assistance, because they're just coming over here and they're going to feed into the system.
Look, we have too many people in this country who really need help, and we do need. Those are some. There's some of the democratic things that I like. There are like the Social Security. I do like that, and I've had my issues. I've gone back and forth with that. I've gone back and forth with food stamps. What it comes down to is we need to help people, and we will help people at that border. That will happen. And these people, these evil people know that. So they throw them up there and they put them right up in our face and say, hey, are you going to turn these children? Are you going to turn them back? Are you going to starve them? Of course not. They're going to do whatever they possibly can to help those people. But I mean,
this is a CNN talking point right here, Greg, not to interrupt, but
go ahead.
Because to make citizenship more difficult for immigrants. Like, let's make it
immigrants.
Hard.
It's not. It's not about
that's
immigrants.
Not even a true statement.
They don't even know.
They should move to make it more difficult. Period. Not just for immigrants.
It's not. It's not difficult for immigrants.
Twist the words, folks.
Yeah.
I mean, it will make citizenship more difficult for immigrants, but it'll make it more difficult for just your everyday. Man, do something to contribute to society instead of sitting around eating fried chicken on YouTube all day on your food stamps and your disability, whining and crying about the end of the world. Do something.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
happy.
I mean, I think Rick really breaks it down here in our comments here. You know, all those talking points are made to get people arguing and divided. Look here, look there, but not at the root,
Yes.
right?
Fuck
You're
yeah.
looking at
Spot
the
on.
tree, but you're not looking at the root of the tree.
Great
Sometimes you got
comment.
to dig out that root.
Yeah, that freaking that's it. And that do you go on TikTok?
You know, I really need to get back on there for a couple reasons, but it's just so dirty and
I'm working my way
so
towards. You
gross.
gotta
It's
have
so nasty.
1,000 subs to be
Okay,
able to
okay.
broadcast on there. And
Do you
I'm
have
working
your
those-
what's your TikTok? What's your TikTok, Jim?
I think it's Spitfire Sentinel.
Nice. Okay.
Or the Sentinel's Truth, one of the two. But let's get back to these two white guys arguing about how
About how we're all racist. Us
right.
Mexicans are racist.
Country. It's an exciting evolution and progress of our
Exciting.
country.
My
Yeah, I'm
God.
sure he's really excited.
Does this guy even look fucking human? He looks like Max Headroom on crack right here.
In many different ways.
You know, I got oh here.
He looks bitter as
In these
look
two,
at look at these two. Wait, hold on. Sorry. Look at these two clowns.
oh, I got all the fun ones for us here.
Look at this.
White
They have
population.
they got masks that match their outfits. I mean, they're color coordinated here.
Well, Pelosi does.
Well,
Maxine, she just got
she
the
does too.
standard surgical mask that does absolutely nothing. That
Well,
thing can't even
that's-
stop a fart, folks.
Well, she doesn't either. So that matches her personality.
And that's probably fucking a bad thing for Maxine Waters because I bet you Pelosi's farting her pants off because, well, she's anyway.
Is declining.
She's
It
declining.
was
She
always
didn't know.
on the
She had to-
upswing. So
Look at the books behind him.
Quick as a cricket.
Quick as a cricket.
If you're happy and you know it.
Clap your hands.
I don't think that's what it says, but that's
If you're
what
happy and you
they
know it.
ripped that off.
What's one of the fart? We got Pete, and then what's the other one over there?
I can't tell that one.
Read it. It's funny.
Probably about how white people are racist.
There's
I'm
a
sure.
black person in the middle, of course.
Oh yeah, gotta have that out there.
Bottle of water, and you got your masks.
I got the Little Mermaid, so why not?
Important.
Here we go.
that speaks to the beautiful diversity
The funny thing is, they put the masks on right before the broadcast and took them off right afterwards. But gad, folks.
of America.
Yeah, destroy the white racist race. And they're doing it by every means possible. Depopulation by any means possible. Stopping people breeding, and even when they do breed, I mean, it's what all the transgender stuff is about, folks. Stopping people breeding.
I knew you'd like this, Joe. Yep.
I'm more interested. Where is this guy walking to? Where is he walking through? So,
Oh, So Max Egan, he fled Australia. Because they got hit with restrictions, and they got hit way worse than any country on the map. Anyway, he fled to Mexico, so he lives in Mexico now. Before he got arrested. Anyway, here we go. Everybody's favorite Bud Light drinker.
Stopping the reproduction and further births in the white race. But also, very often, they're actually stealing people's children when they are born and selling them off to God knows.
See, and Greg, what's interesting is this is the first time that you've seen this video, and you brought into the picture child trafficking. Isn't that interesting? Because that's exactly what he's about to talk about.
Well, he's right there on the front line. If he's in Mexico, and
the fact you brought that up, though, and there was no inference of it, and now, yeah, that's why we're doing this.
Slavers, or whether it's just to harvest body parts, a lot of this seems to be happening as well.
One particular incident was a young woman came in, healthy woman, gave birth to a child on January 31st. And she was told her child had passed away. However, all of a sudden in my abandoned baby unit, I had a brand new baby boy. And it was healthy. And I always watch very carefully the healthy children because they tend to disappear. They are usually, the nurses at the hospital have a deal with an orphanage or orphanages that when a healthy baby is born, they will call the orphanage and say, we have a healthy one. It's newborn. What do you want to pay me for it?
No,
bro.
Stuff, folks. So this is why you shouldn't be doing hospital births. A lot of hospitals are closing their birthing wards, and some people are freaking out about that, but I actually think it's a good thing. People should be doing home births, water births. There's better ways to do it. Get a midwife, do it from home. At least you know your child isn't going to be stolen and sold for body parts.
Wow, suck on that, man. Like, wow. Chopping the umbilical cord off immediately when the child's born, even though it should be left on for much longer because it provides nutrients, things of that nature.
Freaky stuff, folks. And look, you might remember that a year or two ago, I did a discussion, or I had a discussion on one of my reports about how they had figured out that blood from children can actually reverse aging in adults. And now they are, and this was probably 2 years ago I talked about this, folks.
Max talking about adrenochrome.
How taking blood from children can improve life from adults, transfusion with young blood. But, how much blood is in a young body to be able to feed an adult body? How many children do you need, to be able to replace the blood of an adult from the blood of a child?
Crip Brick, my TikTok, Spitfire Sentinel.
Maybe I don't even want to go there and think about it, but I did a report on this anyway, and now they are bringing this out into the open and saying that they think they might have discovered the fountain of youth.
How far would you go to look and feel younger?
Scientists may have found a real fountain of youth. The startup claims to have found the fountain of youth, and it is young blood.
If true, this is huge, right?
Dr. Jesse Karmazin believes the fountain of youth is filled with blood, young blood, preferably that of a person under the age of 25.
What if you could reverse the aging process simply by getting a blood transfusion?
That's what a new company called Ambrosia claims to do.
Controversial new treatment that may hold promise, but at a price.
It does appear. Was that company, you say Ambrosia? Is that right? I got to write it down.
Ambrosia.
Ambrosia. Got to write that one down, folks.
To reverse the aging process.
Dr. Jesse Karmazin is talking about transfusions with the young blood from teenagers, and he says it just may turn back the hands of time. That blood is going to patients over 35 as part of a clinical trial called Ambrosia, where subjects
Over 35, and if you have over $1 billion.
paid $8,000 to get the rich growth factors found.
How much did they say? Let's go back real quick.
8,000.
Transfusion.
That's bullshit.
With the
8,000. You can get you can get freaking tummy tuck for that.
Young
Yeah,
blood
you
from
can get a credit
teenage-
card.
8,000.
You can get a $10,000 credit card with only
Just the misinformation. You can get the blood to make yourself reverse age.
Well, when I'm guessing here,
The fuck out of here.
I'm really guessing that they're going to say, but this is safe. There's nothing to worry about, or they're going to try to debunk these things. That's why a lot of these reports usually come out to try to spearhead some of these theories about adrenochrome and things like
Well, how long
that.
are they going to ban putting this type of information out on YouTube? I mean, it's never nonstop.
Only when people take it seriously, probably.
Right. Oh, Crip Rick, man, no problem. Thanks for asking. Yep, I'm going to build on TikTok because I'm banned from YouTube. Greg's having me on, and he's probably going to get banned too for having me on.
It's okay. I got about five other channels. We'll just jump over there.
Right. TikTok's going to go down eventually too, and that's going to be something else. But I mean, that's why I'm playing these clips from Rumble.
Oh no, that's a China
shoot.
TikTok is from China, so that'll be okay.
A China-based social media platform is less censored than YouTube, a US-based platform. Let that sink in, folks. Just let that sink in.
And he says it just may turn back the hands of time. That blood is going to patients over 35 as part of a clinical trial called Ambrosia, where subjects paid $8,000 to get the rich growth factors found.
You write it down, Ambrosia?
Noted.
Back in the day, we just go to Ambrosia's site and start looking it up, and then all of a sudden be this video has been banned by YouTube.
In the platelets in blood's plasma. There have not been any published results, but the intriguing concept still found its way into pop culture.
There's
I mean, they even
nothing in any
have
published results.
They have that creepy music too, so you can tell they're like trying to creep you out by it.
Absolutely, brother. And did you hear that? There's nothing in any published results. So what the fuck?
Culture.
It's my transfusion associate. Adrenochrome. Adrenochrome?
Looks like adrenochrome.
Adrenochrome. Does that mean something?
Push in whatever the facialist would like to insert into your pores.
But what is it?
It is an extraction from a piece of skin that came from a young person.
Babies.
America's sweetheart right there.
E.T. Canada. Look at that, Rick. There you
Yeah,
go.
oh, yeah.
That's for Crip Rick because he's in Canada.
Again, folks, I cannot stress this enough. You want to find some good stuff, go to BitChute and Rumble while you can before they're freaking banned and censored too.
Far away, and they somehow figured out how to extract.
It's foreskin from a Korean baby.
Much of the
Listen to people laughing.
South Korean or North Korean?
Right.
Film focuses on the organized system within Hollywood for grooming and then abusing children.
I can tell you that the number one problem in Hollywood was and is and always will be pedophilia.
Nobody talks about pedophilia.
It's the big secret.
And it's widespread?
Oh, yeah.
I'll
Yeah,
tell
the
you who
fountain of
talks
youth.
about it. I'll tell you who talks about it. President Trump talks about it. President Trump talks about child trafficking, talks about all of these things. He talks about the prison system. There are people talking about it. They're pretty much in the same boat we are.
Right.
Shadow banned.
Right. And some of the stuff that we're sharing tonight, there should be 4,000 people watching right now.
And there could
And
be.
there's 4. Because I mean,
There
YouTube's
could be.
garbage, folks.
But those numbers, they can also mess with those numbers too. So I
Right.
wouldn't take those numbers seriously.
You can't get this type of what I've been sharing here. You can't even play on YouTube. Well, Greg's playing it for now, but this
Yeah,
is,
we'll see. We'll see
they
how
don't
long
allow
this lasts.
They don't, right?
Thank you, Max, for getting me banned again. No.
Youth. The fountain being the blood fountain spurting from the jugular veins of children they're slaughtering in order to preserve their own lives. Pretty disgusting stuff, folks. Disgusting stuff. Of course, meanwhile, in the middle of all this, we've seen the coronation of King Chuck the Turd. Some of the stuff that's been coming out about this as well, folks. I mean, people saying that Grim Reaper was seen at the coronation.
Oh yeah, who's that person that they can't identify?
Oh,
who was
here-
at the coronation?
here-
I'm
here's
sure.
a little-
I'm sure he's going to talk about.
Here's a little insight into it. Yep.
Oh my Lord! You know, people will just go with anything these days and make up anything they want. The Grim Reaper was seen there, really. I mean, it's Westminster Abbey. They're wandering around Westminster Abbey. There's hooded monks all over the place, folks. And so you caught one of them on camera, and so it must be the Grim Reaper. Well, for a start,
There's your answer.
So wait. So there's people out there that are
Hundreds,
just
thousands of them.
There's
walking
just
around like that.
monks walking around
Yep.
out in front, but hold on, because obviously that's not the case here, because this is a highly censored area. There's nobody that is not welcome that is going to be there. What is that person doing there when I'm sure this is one of the most secured places, events that is happening here? There's a lot more to it than just some guy walking.
the guy's
around
holding a
on the
staff,
street.
not a scythe. And like a clue for people might be in the ever so tiny detail that the Grim Reaper is a fictional character. The Grim Reaper was a character from basically cartoon drawings that were cooked up during the era of the Black Plague. And God knows what really caused that. We won't even go there.
Okay, I don't
But it's
know
a
how much
fictional
more.
character.
I don't
There
know
is
how
no
much more this
person
guy can
out
take
there
here.
who is harvesting a field of wheat, and there's little heads attached to it. And whenever he chops down a shaft.
You asked for it.
I didn't ask for this guy.
That's-
You played
You asked
him.
for his explanation, and
I didn't ask for
This
him
is
at
a
all.
fiction, folks. This is what they used
I'm
to
done with this
explain
guy.
the death of all these people to the children back in the Black Plague days. The Grim Reaper doesn't actually exist, so I think it's kind of doubtful that this character is going to be showing up at Chuck's coronation.
That's not what. No, this guy is just way overdoing it. I think he's spending too much time in Mexico. By the way, I think he, instead of walking around in Mexico,
I don't know anything about this Grim Reaper thing. This is the first time I've seen
it's just come on. I mean, it's not
it.
obviously it's
propaganda.
Not, I don't know. I'd like to get back into RFK versus Trump.
Yeah, I had one more. Oh no, I don't. I think I. Oh well, I have this one, but I don't know if we can play it. I had one more ready to roll on that.
Hey, I have clips on YouTube that I am scared to play because they might find me and come after me.
This one was.
Let me ask you this, Eric. Have you? Okay, go ahead.
But like I said, you're risking your station.
Yeah, that one's gonna get us. That one's gonna get us nuked.
So powerful, brother.
And that's why we got to be very careful if it's from his speech.
And raise your hand if you know what Event 201 was.
Yes.
Okay, for those of you who don't know, Event 201 was a pandemic simulation, a coronavirus pandemic simulation that took place in October of 2019. Nobody had ever heard of coronavirus till January.
Yeah, your
Oh, that's 3 months later. In October, we
It's
now
all
know
over.
the coronavirus
Oh, my bad.
was
I can
already
stop it if you want,
circulating
man.
in September.
I got it
so
all
the
backed
month
up. It's all
before,
good.
So
Wuhan.
powerful.
But nobody knew about it. And yet they had a coronavirus pandemic simulation in New York City.
Can you pause it for a second?
Side
Okay,
note,
this
I used to party at this college, Hillsdale.
nice. Really?
Yep.
Is it a good college?
Yeah,
Cool college?
Yeah. It's
the only thing that I'll say is this video is still on YouTube. So if we get the full video is on YouTube. So this is actually the next the next video that I plan on watching. This is in my watch list.
Who is this guy?
Who
is this guy speaking right now?
This is actually Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Robert
So-
F. Kennedy
yeah.
Jr.
Yeah, so
who
this
is
may be your
actually
next
running
future president. Now remember,
president.
this guy is a big anti-vaxxer. This guy is someone who wants people to know about this stuff. He's been censored.
We got to
more than we have.
those words too.
He has lawsuits. He has lawsuits
because we're not
pending.
anti-vax. We're pro-choice.
We are pro-choice, and
freedom.
and so is our Constitution. So we're just in line with what the Constitution says. So hopefully we don't have to sue people either for banning people's channels and banning things like that. But hopefully it won't come to that. But I'm going to go.
Yeah, it will.
By Bill Gates
How dare
and Avril Haines,
You know,
the former deputy director of the CIA, who did all of the Guantanamo Bay cover-up. She is like the cover-up queen. And they do a simulation. And who else is there? George Gao, the head of Chinese CDC. So, who obviously knows.
George Gao, head of Chinese CDC, folks.
Hey, also everything.
How many American people know? How many people in the U.S. know that there's several heads of the CDC, and one of them is from China? Anyway,
China. We got to say it right though. China.
That doesn't make a difference though, right? In any of this, man. Just
there is a whole
pray for the
website.
souls of the people who actually took that jab, bro.
There is a YouTube playlist for Event 201. That's still up on their website. That's still there. What they say is that Event 201 is just a one scenario that could happen, and they
Event
play it out.
201 almost already happened. during the lockdowns.
The timing, they've also responded to the timing of Event 201, and they
They're on
have
Event
made it
901.
clear. They've made it clear from their view it was just a coincidence. Just a coincidence that
Wiggity.
these things happen. They also said that what they predicted were a lot more deaths than what we have seen. Now, we have to remember when we talk about COVID,
And that's correct. The predictions were massively way more.
but if you look at China's COVID death rates, if anyone can go and look that up, you can look up on World O Meter, on all these other places. You can look up how many deaths did China have from COVID-19. Go and look that up because it may shock you of how many reported deaths they had for how many billion people. How many people do they have there in that country? And look at their number of what their reported numbers are. This is why people do not trust a
If you
lot
go to
of
the
the numbers.
UNWO website, they predicted way more deaths than actually happened, and they had
That's right.
They had anybody who jumped off a tall building died of COVID during that time.
Well, that's what they told Trump.
They
And
way over predicted, and
right.
And
And
the question is, how were they predicting for a pandemic 5 years ago? I'll wait.
Well, it's COVID, so
Predicting
we're
the
not.
death numbers from COVID, which wasn't even a thing, even though it was.
The COVID was a big thing. We're talking about COVID-19.
No, I'm saying in 2015, most people
Yes.
didn't even know what it was, although it was on the back of sanitizer bottles and stuff. But
We've had the coronavirus has been around for a
Right.
long time.
Long
COVID-19 is different. This is
Yeah.
something else that just
Correct.
happened and it's called COVID-19 because it happened in 2019.
It's like how they can HIV versus AIDS, things like that nature.
That's
Magic
right.
Johnson and such.
Hey, Blue Star Lily. Just
Being
saying hi
this
to her.
awake is really it's a handicap sometimes, Greg.
Well, you know,
staying on topic, I fucking it blows my. First of all, if you took the jab and you made a mistake one time, that's fine. If you took it more than once, I don't know what to say to you. It's just why, like what, how. The common cold, the flu. There's no jab you can take to get rid of it. Why would you think that all these different pharmaceutical manufacturers come up with the same cure, the same vaccination, CH instead of D, at the same time? Like, I mean, it's that ludicrous to even think that.
I think that's why this guy, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who is running for the president on the Democratic Party side, this guy is such a big hope and a big threat.
He is. I agree.
At the same time. This guy wrote a book about Dr. Fauci.
Yeah,
now, whatever
great
your views are on Dr. Fauci, that's fine. But this guy lays out almost from a journalistic point of view. And if you listen,
do you have that book? You should
yes,
put it on the screen.
Yeah.
Great book. Everyone should read it.
And get the audio book, because there are a lot of people out there that are not going to read a book. But if you love listening, if you love watching YouTube videos and you love podcasts, get the audio book. This thing is so amazing, and it will bring back memories, because when you read this book or you listen to this book, you will think, I remember that. I remember the HIV thing. I remember this pharmaceutical thing. I remember this COVID. I remember all of these different things. It will bring back so many memories from everything that has happened, that is leading up, that has led up to where we are now. It is such a fascinating audiobook, such a fascinating book. One of the greatest books that I've ever read. What I love about RFK Jr. is he is very clear, something that Donald Trump does not do. RFK Jr. in his speeches, he cites sources. Now, I love Donald Trump's speeches. I've watched every one. I am highly entertained by it. I take notes. I have books. I have writing, handwriting, things like that, and so I can go back and I can fact check that stuff. But what RFK Jr. does is he puts it in his speech, which is something that I wish Trump would do more, but I understand why he doesn't do it. That's neither here nor there. But this would be just so great if we had RFK Jr. and Donald Trump in a debate. How great would that be for this country? And is that why the NWO wants to make sure that never happens?
Yeah, which is why my guess is one of the two will be eliminated, and that'll never happen.
Now, if they do that, but they're in a tough spot. The NWO is in a big spot right now, because if they get rid of one or the other, people are going to take note. And even people that are kind of on the fence right now. This is why they don't even want you to know that RFK Jr. is running. We need to get the message out there. This guy is running. Listen to what he's saying, because he is saying there's some things a lot of things that I disagree with. He's saying some very important things that I agree with, and he's saying some very important things that I need to think about and maybe even change my views on.
And what happened to quite possibly, in a lot of people's minds, the greatest president ever in the history of the United States of America, which
Trump?
was Kennedy.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say Donald Trump. All right.
No, Robert F. Kennedy.
All right.
What happened to him? And that's we. Can you put the last Blue Star Lily? You had
yes
up there.
Yeah, that's a great one right there.
My husband had to take the jab or possibly lose his job, right? And that's
understandable. I totally understand that, and you got to do what's best for
I
your
sympathize
family.
with it.
Yes.
I would rather lose my job just because I know what's in the jab.
No,
that being said, it's because of some of the top scientists in the world that I spoke with about what's in the jab. That to me, that's putting you just.
But you as a father would
what
do
job is
everything.
the poison?
Right, but
I'll
you
go
as
work
a
at
father,
McDonald's.
you would do everything that you could
I'll go
to
work at
support your
McDonald's.
family. You're right, but we're talking about a time. Put yourself back in
I wouldn't do it.
in 2020, where they were
Personally, I
shutting
wouldn't do
down
it.
businesses.
I wouldn't do it.
Let me give you some of those numbers that
They did.
RFK Jr.
Some of the businesses I
was
worked for
talking
got
about.
shut down.
Okay, he was talking about how many businesses had gotten shut down because of COVID during that time. You could not support your family in 2020.
Then you find a different way.
There was nothing else to do unless you're going to become a criminal or a drug dealer.
Would you have taken it? Would you have taken it?
Me? No.
Well, that's my point, I guess.
But I don't
literally
want
shooting
to
poison to your arm. Now, that being said, a lot of the people out there were not as informed as they are now.
Right. But I also don't want to, be little or to just, say, hey,
not at
that's
all.
your
Not at
choice.
all.
Remember,
But
that is your choice.
but
That's
now
what I
the-
liked
now
about Trump.
The
That's what
facts
I
have
really
come out about what this is.
Yeah, now,
Take
which
it now would be insane.
but it should also not be forced now. That's the whole thing. Is Trump gets a lot of flack where people say, well, he created the vax, he did this warp
That's ridiculous.
speed,
He
but
created
he
the
did
vax.
not force it on people.
Look
These
what
are
happened to this
statewide
guy.
issues.
Look what happened to Trump after all this. I mean, come on,
he
man.
got the vax. He did get the vax, but he got coronavirus.
He got a placebo. He got
he was infected. Now,
each and every one of these heads of state that you see taken. There's lots of videos out there, not on YouTube anymore, of course, because they're all gone. Where you see the needle like it's like a trick; it slides in and out. It's like not even a real. They're not. You really think they're taking it?
I think some of them are. Yes, yeah. I think there are many people that have taken it and may
Not
have
in the
died.
elite, not in the upper echelon. No, I'm talking about the up. I'm talking about freaking governors. I'm talking about freaking heads of state. I'm talking about prime ministers. I'm talking about presidents of countries. You really think they're taking it?
Yes. Yeah, I do.
They're actually taking the actual jab. Well, I mean, they might be giving it to them.
Yeah,
it'd be good. Well, I hope so. I hope they did. I mean, because according to Dr. Junior Mikovits, one of the top scientists of our generation, who's now a conspiracy theorist, 2 years later, has completely told us that all this jab does is destroy your immune system. It breaks down any chance you have to fight against the virus, which is ridiculous. And number two, the mRNA versions of the virus brought to you by Moderna and Pfizer, they actually change your molecular structure, which that's conspiracy theorists, though. Then we'll start talking about nanobots and shit. But no, it's just this is not something. You're literally shooting something into your veins. You're shooting it into your body.
It's not natural.
Rid of it. What would shock me talking to Judy, bro, was the fact that there's really no way to actually get rid of it. You can kind of try to detoxify your body, but it's there forever.
I can tell you the one way.
That's why some said this was the mark of the beast.
No, and how do you fight the mark of the beast? With Jesus Christ.
Correct.
That's it. That's the only way. There. Now, I mean, we're all under. This is why we're all under attack. They
Massive
want to
control.
separate us. They want to separate the people who took it and the people that didn't. And it's like, no, man, we're on the same side here. You know, I mean, there are people that take it and are like, man, you know, they don't want it. They didn't want to take it, but for whatever their circumstances are, I'm not in their circumstances, so I can't say,
right,
you know, whether they should or whether they shouldn't.
Exactly.
You need to do what's best for your family. You need to do what is best for you. Okay.
Right. If
And
your intentions were good and what you believed in your heart was good, then I mean that's it.
yeah. And it's all about freedom. The whole thing with Trump is you had the freedom to take it or to not take it. It was not forced. Biden came in and tried to force it on us. Yes.
Let's talk about Robert F. Kennedy.
Yes.
Bongino, man. I mean, that's the obvious vice president regressing again. Not digressing, but regressing back to when we were talking about Pence as a pick for vice president. Bongino, I mean, can you imagine if you had a Tucker Carlson damn Bongino card?
Wow.
Why those two haven't teamed up and made their own station is beyond me at this point, and hopefully they will.
Well, Tucker can't because of his
contract,
right?
right?
All that
Right.
stuff,
And that's some shit. But I
yeah,
mean,
but I can't see him running as president. Although I would think it'd be
Tucker, no,
great,
vice president,
great.
But Bongino, vice president or president, in my mind, that guy makes the most sense as a vice presidential pick for Kennedy or Trump.
Yeah, I could see that. I would love to see. Yeah, well, Pence, you know,
he picked Pence. That's what we were talking back then, man.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, Trump.
I think it was a good
Pence.
pick back then. I think it was a good pick then.
I don't think it was a good pick ever. But that's
okay. So
he's swampy.
Okay, so what do you think about the Pence, the debate that Pence had versus Harris versus Kamala Harris? It was good.
As you said earlier, I mean, that's like debating freaking special needs kids, you know, just like saying that these guys are better than your average libtard. Same difference.
Pence was like a robot. Pence was like a robot politician.
We don't know that.
We don't know
if he was or wasn't.
He's a cookie cutter politician. That's it. That's not what I want from a president. We've had that. This is why I'd like Trump.
GOP, freaking.
Yeah, he was so different. Trump was so different. It was like a real person. Whether you liked what he said or whether you didn't, you understood where he was gonna tell you where he stood on these issues, because whether he became the president or not, he was gonna go and continue with his businesses. This was a self-made person, compared to Joe Biden, who has been in politics for 40 years and probably in government and probably aspiring into government for many, many more. Joe Biden can't do anything else. He's not going to do anything else. That's why he's looking at Ukraine. He wants that Ukrainian money for his kids because he can't give it to them. And his kids can't do it on their own. Look at Trump's children. Even Trump's children, whether you agree with their businesses or what they're doing something. What are Joe Biden's children doing? What are these other people doing? No.
Well, I don't want to.
We do not want. Look, we spent so many years saying we do not want a politician. That's why many of us wanted Ron Paul. right? He did not talk like a politician, even though he was. He did not talk like the regular
Biden
politician.
wants to smoke crack. Give me some crack.
But then you get Donald Trump in there.
That's his kid. President's kid smokes a lot of crack.
It's crazy. It's like having Brock Lesnar.
What the fuck?
It's like having a real wrestler.
I like underage women and crack.
You get Brock Lesnar in there, who is a real wrestler,
Ron
a real
Paul.
amateur wrestler, and he joins into fake wrestling. It's kind of what Trump did.
We had a
Trump
cool
Trump was
wrestler,
Trump was a
Ventura.
real businessman. Trump was
You
a real
mentioned
businessman.
wrestlers. Jesse Ventura. He was a
Yeah,
governor.
the same thing. That's
And,
right.
Yeah,
And he was a
He had a
soldier.
frickin-
Trump, Jesse Ventura served this country too.
he was hit by a mind control weapon though, because he's all for open borders now. He's something. He flip flopped a little bit.
I disagree with him on that, but I'm glad that
doing
he
those
actually.
shows about FEMA camps and like freaking mind control weapons and
But
all.
he never changed his thoughts on it.
He's getting old.
He had his views, and those views have never changed.
We have to understand that Jesse's in his mid 70s now. So I mean, these guys, as much as we don't want to think about this, their minds aren't working the same as they were.
I disagree, because when you look at Trump in that CNN town hall debate, which is really what it was Trump versus, and thank God they did it in New Hampshire, because it was New Hampshire and Trump versus CNN at that point here. But if you look at that, look at how old Trump is. Look at
Ron
what
Paul
Trump did.
Same thing I say, and touche and shit, because you're right about that. Blue Starly, Ron Paul. I mean, that's the guy that will never be the president of the United States, because there's.
I think
Ron Paul. Always have. Rand Paul has been trying to do as good a job as Ron. Rand Paul wouldn't have gotten as far as he did though in the government if he did what Ron Paul did.
I don't know about that. Rand Paul was one of the few people, because he was a doctor. Because he was a doctor, he was speaking up about
he was
the
biased
whole lockdowns,
because he was a medical doctor though.
But he was pressing
he was
Anthony
but
Fauci, and he had the
he didn't have
credibility.
the same boom that Ron Paul did.
Yeah,
Ron
I don't think.
Paul-
I don't think Ron Paul could have pressed Anthony Fauci the way that Rand.
Oh,
Paul
I think
did.
Ron Paul could have freaking just turned him.
Think he
into
could
a
have
little
destroyed
dot.
him?
Oh yeah, one of my favorites, without a doubt. But regardless, should we finish this clip?
Yeah.
We got-
Let me go back to this.
Yeah. And how long is the clip that's on YouTube currently? This one's 5 minutes, 31 seconds. I think it's only like a couple minutes on YouTube, right? Because they cut some of it out. This is the full clip.
The coronavirus is circulating. He is the world's coronavirus expert. He's also the head of the CDC in China. And then they had all of the
Can you go back a
social
little
media
bit so we can get a
platforms were
little
there, the big
context?
insurance companies, Johnson and Johnson, who did all of the Guantanamo Bay cover-up. She is like the cover-up queen. And they do a simulation. And who else is there? George Gao, the head of Chinese CDC. So, who obviously knows the coronavirus is circulating. He is the world's coronavirus expert. He's also the head of the CDC in China. And then they had all of the social media platforms were there, the big insurance companies, Johnson and Johnson, the big pharma companies, and they meet for 2 days. And they have 4 seminars, and each one is faking this, coronavirus is spreading across the world. And they simulate, they don't say, okay, we got vitamin D to everybody, and we got to make sure everybody gets exercise and gets out of their house and gets healthy and, builds their immune system. And there's none of that. And zinc and, all the things. We got to figure out early treatments. We got to use the computer, the internet to connect all 15 million doctors, frontline doctors around the world, so that we know when they treat people what's working, what's not. And we're constantly upgrading the protocols. That's what they should have been doing. That's not what they were doing. They were working on ways to use the coronavirus pandemic as a pretense for clamping down totalitarian controls.
Catch that, folks. That was probably the most important part in this whole diatribe here.
Pretense for clamping down totalitarian. That's not what they were doing. They were working on ways to use the coronavirus pandemic as a pretense for clamping down totalitarian control. That's not what they were doing. They were working on ways to use the coronavirus pandemic as a pretense for clamping down totalitarian controls globally. And, they talk about in some of these concentration camps and all of this stuff. But here, that the last simulation on the fourth day, George Gao and Avril Haines from the CIA are talking. They have a soliloquy about how do we clamp down to stop people from saying this came from a lab leak. So they're saying that. This is in October of 2019. And they say, well, we got to get the social media companies to censor them and deplatform them and all this. You can go on YouTube and watch this tonight. It's called Event 201, and this is the fourth section of it. Oh, and people knew about that, who were looking at this like me. And from almost the beginning. But then I started doing a deep dive when I was writing the book. And I found out that was not a one-off. And I describe in that book, I found about 20 of these that they had been doing since 2001. And they're all scripted by the CIA. And all of them include top-level officials like James Woolsey, the deputy director of the CIA, Tara O'Toole. All of them have senior CIA officials. Many of them have famous people who kind of give an imprimatur of legitimacy to what they're doing, like Madeleine Albright or Tom Daschle or, Bill Gates and a lot of them, and Gro Brundtland from the WHO, people who are respected and they end up drilling, each one of them is drilling the imposition of totalitarian controls. Collectively, they have names like Dark Winter and Crimson Contagion and all these weird names, but collectively they're called Operation Lockstep. And they involved hundreds of thousands of people, public officials from little towns all over America, health officials from the state, police, firefighters, hospital systems, public utilities, and FBI, CIA, US Marshals in Canada, the United States, all over Europe, Australia, and China. They were all doing it together, drilling, here's what we're going to do when a pandemic comes. And a lot of these people, you can see, are surprised about what they're doing. But they're probably looking around and saying, well, everybody else thinks this is okay, so I guess this is what we do when the pandemic comes. So they drilled people in doing something that was clearly contrary to their values. But it got them all teed up to do it and do it all at once and say, this is what you do when there's a pandemic. The first thing you do is you end freedom of speech and you start gutting the Constitution.
That's amazing. That's all right. So that's all the clips I have to play.
Boom, right there.
That's
right
just
there. Yeah.
right. And the fact that we could have that man and Trump running.
Wouldn't that be so awesome? We need that,
I don't
right?
think it'll ever happen.
I know. I'm kind of with you on that.
but
have you heard RFK, who has talked about Donald Trump's CNN? You've seen the CNN speech, I'm assuming.
I don't
hopefully?
think so. No, I don't think I've seen him.
Dude, it's like 70 minutes of some of the greatest stuff. Probably can't play it here, but I know that I can play.
We should probably
this
wrap it up pretty
here.
soon. Anyway, we're coming up on an hour and a half.
Okay.
What do you
right,
think?
well, I mean, I can go on for a little bit longer, as long as you're able to. I'd like to play this one here. This is about a 6-minute clip, but I can stop it at any time.
Oh yeah, no.
I don't want to say you have unanimity between the Dems and the Republicans, but it's, the Dems seem very in support of this our support of Ukraine and what we're doing over there. Most Republicans also say that they support what we're doing, though there's a growing body of dissenters within the GOP. And Trump certainly seems to be one of them. Now, he participated in this CNN town hall last night and was asked about Ukraine. Here's part of what he said.
Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I don't think in terms of winning and losing. I think in terms of getting it settled so we stop killing all these people and breaking down this country. You have
Mr.
to
President,
get
can I
Europe.
just follow up on that because that's a really important
Excuse me,
statement
let me
that
just
you just
follow
made
up.
there. Can you say if you want Ukraine or Russia to win this war?
I want everybody to stop dying. They're dying. Russians and Ukrainians. I want them to stop dying.
Wow.
And I'll have that done. I'll have that done
Wow,
in 24 hours. I'll have it done.
I haven't been following any of
I was
this.
getting pushback on
That was awesome though.
that from the more, pro-Ukrainian intervention folks saying, what does that mean? He's going to give it up within a day. He's going to pull us out of it, pull U.S. support,
Greg Kelly loves
wave the
it.
white flag, and let Putin have what he's taken thus far. People are upset about that. And it was interesting, just anecdotally, it's a small room, but those are all Republican primary voters in New Hampshire.
Greg Kelly's
clapping
actually 110
for his
years old,
answer.
folks.
So what did you make of it?
Well, I was really happy to hear him say that. And, and I think his instincts are exactly right. We just have to end this war. And there's not going to ever be a winner or loser. Both sides have been the loser in this. We've killed now between 30,000 and 100,000 Russians. And over 300,000 Ukrainian troops and 14 to 15,000 civilians. We've destroyed the Ukraine. We've destroyed 60% unemployment. The infrastructure is wrecked. The country now, because of the prolonging of this war, which is a U.S. project, the neocons in the White House have prolonged this war and much longer, rather than treating it as a humanitarian crisis and trying to end it quickly. Every step the White House has taken, particularly the neocons in the White House, has been to prolong the war and expand and increase the bloodshed. President Biden, we were sold on the fact that this was a humanitarian issue, that a humanitarian intervention. My son went over there and fought, and that was his impression too. He went over and he fought, as a machine gunner.
Yeah. Talked about that.
Special Forces unit in the Kharkiv offensive. But when President Biden was asked about the objectives of the war, he said it was to depose Vladimir Putin, to do regime change, which is a neocon project, an aspiration of the neocons for a decade. When his defense secretary, Lloyd Austin, spoke about the war in April of 2022, or 2021, 2022, excuse me, he said that our objective in the war was to exhaust the Russians and degrade their capacity to fight in any other part of the world. Well, that is not a good idea for the Ukrainians. That means we are turning this country into an abattoir for Ukrainian kids in order to achieve a geopolitical objective of weakening Russia. And by the way, I don't think it's a good idea for us to be weakening Russia. We are pushing Russia into the camp of China
by this,
and so the whole thing is kind of a nightmare. And it's the Ukrainians are a victim of U.S. policies and Russian policies.
Correct.
I like what President Trump said during his administration. He actually laid the groundwork for this war. He began selling for the first time Ukrainians offensive weapons. He walked away from the ABM treaty, which was the treaty that made the Russians very nervous, because that was the treaty we had signed with the Russians to say neither of us are going to deploy the intermediate range nuclear weapons. From the Ukraine, Ukraine's only 400 miles from Russia. And we could hit Moscow in minutes with those weapons. So it destabilized the area. It made the Russians very, very anxious. And then he continued to push the borders of NATO right up to the Russian borders, which the Russians had said was a red line. So his administration, although his intentions, I think, were good, his administration was filled with neocons and warmongers and swamp creatures and pharmaceutical executives who were making decisions that did not reflect what President Trump was saying to his base.
Megyn Kelly sitting there going, "You don't take adrenochrome like I do." Oh.
That's the debate we need to have. This is what the American people want. The American people want to hear they want to hear, okay, the best. They want to hear the worst of all of this. They don't want to be censored. They don't want to hear, things that are censored. This to me is why Trump probably felt so censored. He had to go on CNN at this point. That was it. He had no other choice after everything that is happening. And when you watch that, Eric, if you can find it, and if you can't find it, I'll make sure that you have it. He talks about all of these things that they have gone after him for. He talks about, obviously, any type of fraud. He talks about the latest allegations.
You ever hear controlled opposition, brother?
He talks about all of that stuff, man.
But that's why a lot of people would say that Trump is controlled opposition, because they have to have a antithesis to what they're putting out there. Somebody like that.
That seems like simple. It seems like you're wrapping it up in a nice little package, putting it
I'm
under
not.
a Christmas tree. No, I'm not
it's
saying you
out
are,
there.
but
Yeah.
I mean, but that's what people want to do, because they want the simple thing. They want to figure it out just like that.
Like Ukraine versus Russia. Ukraine
they
good,
want-
Russia
this
bad.
is a
What happened was,
complicated.
and Kennedy just freaking blew that out of the water. That basically what happened was that Ukraine lost all their infrastructure. They're toast. Allah, look into Palestine, folks. Same
Well,
thing. And
here's where
who wins if Ukraine freaking turns into Iraq? Who wins? Russia does, of course.
this
because
is like
they
the
want
Cuban Missile
to
Crisis.
stabilize this entire region, and Russia's taking it over. The U.S. is the U.S. taking over Ukraine? No,
Yeah.
Russia is, and
No.
you all bought into it and put your little flags up.
I think
Just
it's
like what
U.S.
happened in
I
Palestine.
think
Ukraine is the new Palestine. Go ahead.
I think what we are seeing with the Ukraine is a U.S. operation.
Well,
a U.S.
US,
operation.
Russia,
because
New World Order operation.
there is no need for Ukraine or the U.S. to put missiles that close to Russia
Oh,
when they
what
had
would the U.S.
treaties.
do if somebody put missiles all around us? I mean, come on, man.
I mean, that's why
There are, though,
putting.
folks.
I mean, this is what Putin talked about. Putin talked
There's
about this.
1,000 Russian subs within 1,000 miles off the coast of the U.S. at any given point, armed with freaking nukes and missiles.
Right. So
Ballistic
why
ones,
would the
long-range.
U.S. put missiles in Ukraine
It's
that
all a
close
show.
to Russia?
All the world's a stage. That's why.
unless they want to trigger World War
So
III.
they get people to put up their freaking Ukraine flags on their
No, they
profile
want
picture.
they want Russia to respond. It didn't work with the Trump thing. They wanted to make Trump seem like he was a Russian
I'm going to
agent.
disagree a little bit. I just
Okay.
think that this is all smoke and mirrors. It's all it's Crip Rick said earlier, look over here, not over there.
Yeah.
What's really going on? Because is it really going to happen? Who knows? Do we know? I mean,
Well,
is your
if you
average
don't
man
look-
or woman in charge of the nukes? I mean, we
Well,
never know.
we
what's
have to
gonna
look at
happen.
we have to look at where these things are, and the simple fact is that they put missiles next to the Russian border when they shouldn't have.
Right.
That is going to trigger Russia to do.
Surrounded the Russian border.
Yeah,
What
I
would
mean,
the U.S. do?
What would the U.S. do? Exactly. This is the Cuban Missile Crisis all over again. Here we are, and this is why Trump said within 24 hours. Trump said, if he is the president in 24 hours, and we're going to hold his feet to the fire on this. If he is the president, he says he will have this thing solved in 24 hours. That's a big, bold statement there.
It really
But
is.
that also shows how deep this whole thing goes and how easily these things can be solved. And we're talking about problems that we have in the USA, and we know we can solve a lot of our problems just like this, but we also know there are powerful forces that want to make it seem like it's not that easy. It's
Well,
so
everything is
complicated and we
directed.
can't solve it.
Everything's directed against meaningless, ridiculous topics like transgender bullshit, transgender bathrooms, this and that, and people are freaking flocking to like that kind of crap. Where
Those are more state issues, I think. Those are
But,
more.
I mean, though, as far as social media goes, though, man, I mean, these are hot topics. They're hot buttons.
I don't know. I mean,
They're not important. Well, they're not important. Well, of course, to you, it didn't mean it doesn't matter because we see it as it is. I mean, these people aren't thinking about somebody amassing.
It's our kids. It's our kids
thousands
that they're
of
going
frickin'
after.
short, medium, and long range nukes on the border of another country. They're not. Others are though.
Right.
But it becomes increasingly everything's censored.
Well, I mean, you had mentioned that it's like Palestine, and in many ways, it really is, because this is a short border, a short section of land that Russia and Ukraine have been fighting over for a long period
The
of
difference
time.
was there was Israel and freaking
Now,
Palestine.
you have, just like in Palestine, you have Jewish people and Palestinian people living in the same border. In Russia, you have Russians and you have Ukrainians living in the same area.
And all those people
They don't
did not
want
ask
war.
for this shit.
No, they
ask for
don't.
this.
They don't want this.
They didn't ask for any of this.
And Trump said this would never happen, and he's right, because it did not happen under his administration. With everything that happened, even with whatever happened to him, the sickness that was drawn upon him, everything that they did to weaken him, Russia still did not go
It's
into
interesting.
Ukraine.
That is something that's never brought up about when Trump was president, is that it was one of the most peaceful times in modern history in the United States of America. There were no wars. None of this shit happened.
He did not
That's a
start
fact
any
check.
new wars.
Nope.
That's a fact check. That's
Nope.
right. Nope. Yeah, he was getting people out of prisons who should not have been there. People that were in there for like weed, that were in there for these like small crimes and things like that. That by the way, that our current vice president, had put a lot of people in there for smoking weed, for these things. Like these people should have not been in jail. The
Our
prison
current vice
system is
president? Are
not
you
for
talking about
that.
Kamala Harris now?
Yeah, I'm talking about our current vice president.
What
When-
a
yes.
shit show. We're not even going to get into that, though. We don't have enough time to get into the Kamala Harris.
No,
Joe Biden shit show.
but that's the whole thing. It was just like, when you look at what happened under Trump's era, under his 4 years, he proved how easily these
He
things
was one of the most
could be
peaceful
changed.
presidents in American history, as
Yeah.
far as wars go. That's a fact.
And-
I mean, there were some hiccups. I mean, when his presidency first happened, I
Oh, sure,
remember
for sure.
there was anyway. But I mean, let's look at it this way: Obama was the number one freaking drone suicide president ever. He murdered more people to the tune of 27,000. I think it was over 27,000 fucking civilians.
He got a pass.
People don't know what a murderous thug this guy and his husband Michael were, but I digress.
Yeah, but I mean, he clearly got a pass because he was black.
So bad.
And because of the racist, because it's anybody can be a racist. I don't care what your skin color is. Okay.
Yeah,
And there
talk
are a
about this
lot of
before I roll out, bro.
Okay.
But I mean, this is an important subject here. There's again on TikTok, because I spend a lot of time over there now because it's uncensored. You have these live streams, and all it is about how here's some of the ridiculous things that they are debating about over there. Trans women are better than regular women. There's one of them.
Those aren't women. Yeah, well, you're.
I mean, it's
you're not a woman. You're not a woman. You're
clickbait
either a
bullshit.
man or a woman. That's it.
But I mean,
That's
how do you say that? Like now you're
That's it.
dividing. So if you are a trans woman, now you're dividing. Now you're
There's
saying
no
you're
such thing as a trans woman.
better than a regular one. I mean,
no, it doesn't make
divide
any
and
sense,
conquer, bro.
This
The
is why
legend,
Trump
like-
said one of the big things, and I hope that you watch that link, and I'm going to send you that later. Watch the full Trump CNN town hall. It covers everything, all of those things. But this is what he's talking about. We have a mental health issue in this country.
Bingo.
And that is one of the biggest problems, if not the biggest issue. And that relates to the trans issue that we have now, where men want to be women, women want to be men, because they don't have the parents to teach them that stuff is wrong. They don't want to look at what the Bible says about that is wrong. They don't have people to tell them, look, you may feel like this. We all feel like different things at certain times. Sometimes you feel like you want to punch somebody in the freaking throat, but you don't do it. Sometimes you may want to feel like you want to chop your balls off, but you don't do it. The problem is people want to make it so easy for you. They want you to make those choices that you cannot turn back on. If you chop your genitalia off or you chop your breasts off, there's no going back from
going
that.
back to the borders too. It gets conflated with that because you have people come over the border who can't speak English and are equally as mentally ill. I mean, it conflates the issue even more. And I mean, that's the whole plan, is to make it that messed up. Everything's messed up. You know, they can't even speak freaking the language and they're messed up, whether they are or not. I mean, well, again, we're the new Babylon. It is in the Bible, by the way, folks. This is in the book of Revelation, without a doubt. Look it up. Don't believe me, that the United States is marked as a territory, even in the Bible, as the new Babylon. And that's where we're at. And Greg and I are here speaking out, trying to warn and awake people and stave this off. But if it is biblical prophecy, it's going to happen, regardless of how much we stand up. And if we believe in Yeshua, Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, then we'll be all right.
Amen. Amen. And that's where we are now. And I'm sure that's where we have been, and that's where this is going to continue to go. But when you have the responsibility to let people know that, according to what the Bible says, you don't want to force it on people. Obviously, you want to have freedom. You want to, but you don't want to act like something that is wrong is okay. Social media wants to be your parent. They want to tell you it's okay to question your sexuality.
Who's your daddy?
They want to be your daddy. But you know what? You already have a daddy. Now, maybe your daddy did you wrong. Maybe your daddy he didn't live up to whatever he should have. But let me tell you, God is the real father of everything.
Expect me.
Okay.
Sorry.
I like that. That was good. That's a nice good cut there. But that's what it really is. We have certain truths that we have to live by, and we have to be rocks. We cannot be mud where the water can just come in and just draw us out. You have to be a rock that stands within that mud, within that flood, within all of these things that are hitting us, because they're not just hitting us, they're hitting our children, and they're hitting our children in more ways than our children even know. And it's not just our children, it's our children's children. And the social media, all of this stuff, these are marks of the beast. These things are going to continue to attack us and to continue to attack our children's children. And one day our children are going to look back and say, why didn't you teach me this? Why didn't you understand this? Because they're not going to blame themselves. They're going to blame you. They're going to look at everybody else and see, okay, nobody taught me this. So hopefully they will take that and say, nobody taught me this, so I'm going to teach my children this. The opposite view would be, nobody taught me this, so it's okay. Everything we do is okay here. And it's not. And these are some of the basic, fundamental things that the Bible teaches. I mean, the Bible is very, very simple. You could really break it down into some very simple terms. I could break down the Bible to you in 3 or 4 sentences, really. But the main thing is, we need to teach our children right from wrong. They will mess up. We messed up. I messed up. I messed up many ways. And there are many things that I've looked back at my life and said, why didn't my parents teach me this? Not realizing maybe they did, and I just didn't listen. But the other thing is maybe they didn't, and maybe I need to take that knowledge and teach my children and learn from the mistakes from my parents and teach my children something better.
Well
But I
said.
never want to teach them something worse.
That makes
And I think
so much sense.
that's kind of where I'm at now with all of this stuff. And it's just I'm so tired of hearing, Trump is bad, or, RFK
Everybody's
is bad. Just
You're
everybody's
bad, I'm
bad.
bad.
It's like, man, we're all just human beings.
There's no winning with a lot of these people, and that's exactly.
And that's
how
what I mean.
bad
That's
the NWO wanted to beat people down to be at that point.
That's
There's
what
no
the
winning
digital
with it.
media is. I mean, that's why vinyl will always be better than a CD, because vinyl is real, and a CD is a digital platform. It'll always beat that out, and that's kind of where we're going to go back to. That's why I still write on paper, on physical paper here, because this means so much more to me than writing or posting on a blog or any of that stuff. That
If the
stuff
lights
needs
go
to be
out,
done.
it's because it's tangible, just like gold and silver are much more important than these pieces of paper that are going to be toilet paper eventually. Anyway, I got to roll. It's an hour 45 minutes. I got to work early.
Thank you, brother.
I want to roll out if that's cool. If not,
Yeah.
I'll stay on. No,
It's cool. I'm gonna.
Greg's the only person I even really want to broadcast with anymore. That's why you never see me on here. Maybe he's the only one who's silly enough, naive enough to allow me on. But I have something to take us out with, if you'll allow me. It's JFK, and we're gonna see if RFK lives up to what JFK was.
Okay, I'll let you play this, and then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna play a couple more clips and talk a little bit more about RFK and
Hopefully lives
Donald
up to
Trump.
JFK. Yeah,
I
think he already has some of the things he said.
He may have
Some of the things
served
JFK
past
said.
him.
Right.
I mean, RFK Jr. is very, like I said, he's very anti-vax. I'll leave it at that, and I will. There you go, my brother. Thank you for joining me.
Welcome to the resistance.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweigh the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it is in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts that they deserve to know. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its centers are silent, not praised. No expenditure is questioned. No rumor is printed. No secret is revealed. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program. For from the scrutiny comes understanding. From that understanding comes support or opposition. And both are necessary. I am not asking your newspapers to support the administration, but I'm asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people. For I have complete confidence in the response and dedication of our citizens whenever they are fully informed. I not only could not stifle controversy among your readers, I welcome it. This administration intends to be candid about its errors. For as a wise man once said, an error does not become a mistake until you refuse to correct it. We intend to accept full responsibility for our errors, and we expect you to point them out when we miss them. The secret cover.
I think we lost Greg. You there, Greg? Yeah, I think we lost him. Are we still live? I think we lost Greg. Well, I might as well play some in the meantime, huh? The secret covenant.
I'm still here. I'm here. Sorry.
Okay, I'll take this off.
That's all good. Well,
yeah. JFK.
Yeah, I got a few more clips here, so feel free to hang on as long as you can. I need to just trying to find a few more. Where's the this is one. Okay, this is like a 2-minute clip here. Let me see if I can play this one.
I'm kind of shocked that this show hasn't been nuked yet.
Me too. I thought, okay, it's over. It's done. No, we're good, man. God is with us, my brother. I'm telling you, man. You know, strange things happen. Hopefully everybody can see this.
Oh, that's nice.
All right. This is a 2-minute clip here. So if you don't like Trump, just spare me for 2 minutes.
Announce his presidential campaign by, get this, a prepackaged video. I was going to do that for you today. I'll do a little video, send it up to New Hampshire. You wouldn't have been very happy about that. But when you're running for president, you think at least one time you'd get up and say, I'm running for president. Where am I going? Where the hell am I going? I want to get out. Oh, no, over there, over. A prepackaged video that took supposedly 7 takes to get it right, if right is what you want to call it. In it, he says he's running because Trump and MAGA pose a threat to democracy. Can you believe it? Got to explain. MAGA is Make America Great Again, right? Nope, no threat there. No, it's Biden who poses the threat to democracy because he is grossly incompetent, has no idea what he's doing, and basically he doesn't have a clue. And that's a very bad position to put our country in. Our country is in a very dangerous position right now. With such a calamitous presidency, it's almost inconceivable that Biden would have even thought of running for re-election. He's destroyed our country. And yet he says in his recorded piece that he wants to finish the job. That's right. He wants to finish the job of destroying our country. But on that, he's actually very close. He is very close to finishing the job, unfortunately. We have to rescue America from the wreckage of the Biden economy. Under my leadership, we built the greatest economy in the history of the world. In fact, we actually did it twice because that horrible gift from China came over, COVID, or the China virus, as many people say.
Horrible gift.
But now we will do it again. We will do it again. We passed the largest tax cuts and reforms in American history. We cut more job-killing regulations than any administration ever, also in history. We achieved American energy independence, and we were about set to do American energy dominance, bigger than Saudi Arabia, bigger than Russia combined, ×2. And we slashed the price of gasoline down all the way down to $1.87 a gallon. Doesn't that sound good? That's why you have this horrible inflation, because of what happened to your energy. Now everything's up. Now it's happening to everything. Thank you. Thanks to our policies, the typical New Hampshire family saw their annual income rise by $6,000, the largest increase in recorded history, the largest. Nobody's ever seen that, by $6,000. Everybody was happy. For decades, the corrupt globalist establishment savagely betrayed New Hampshire workers. You know that better than most. I see those beautiful factory buildings. Some are now apartment houses and some are now senior citizens, but the factories, that's what you had to do. The factories, there's so many gone. Your state lost 1 in 4 manufacturing jobs after the NAFTA disaster and China's entrance into the World Trade Organization. But after years of cruel sellouts by past leaders, I ended NAFTA, the worst trade deal ever made. That was the worst trade deal ever made, what they did to us for so many decades, and replaced it with the incredible USMCA, Mexico, Canada. That's considered now the best trade deal ever made. So good, in fact, that Mexico and Canada are now trying to renegotiate the deal with the Biden administration. I say, don't do it. Don't talk about it. Don't do it. Somebody over there told me it's unfair. I said, you know what? We lived with unfair for decades. Now they say it's unfair. No, we made a great deal, and you're all manufacturers, farmers, everybody is benefiting. USMCA, we're very proud of that. And I stood up to China like no administration has ever done before. Bringing in hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars, pouring into our treasury from China when no other president had gotten even 10 cents. Not one president got, and I literally mean not 10 cents. We got hundreds of billions of dollars. I don't think they like me too much, but that's okay. Well, everybody else is paid off by China, including, by the way, our president, okay? It's a big problem. You wonder why he does nothing about China, why he doesn't do what he's supposed to be doing, because he got millions of dollars from China. You see it. I made big promises to the people of New Hampshire, and as your president, I kept every single promise.
I loved what he was saying up to that point. Not every single promise. There were a lot of people who voted for him.
Because I hear this. I hear this a lot.
You know what I'm going to say? 9/11 truth. That was the big one. I mean,
he never made any.
He openly came out and said there were bombs in the buildings.
Right, but he never made any promises about 9/11. Right.
True.
But he also never backed away from it either. Now the thing is, the media never.
Well, he did. He did back away from it at one
Did he?
point.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, well, I mean, where did the media question him about 911?
Of course, why would they? They'd be exposed. Then people.
Well, I can give you a couple examples. I can give you a couple.
I love, but let me not to. Instead of detracting from what he
I think you bring up, that's one of the biggest things, because he should be talking about 911.
First time in my life was because I thought he was going to expose that. I mean, he did come out. There are clips out there, not on YouTube anymore, of him talking about there were bombs.
It's in my book.
World Trade Center buildings in your book too. And but I mean, that's again, if you don't give people everything they want, then they're a bad guy.
No,
what
Trump
he just
has made.
said, I was freaking spot on.
Trump has made several speeches on 911 because every year I always looked at, okay, what is he going to say about 911? And he sticks to the official story, which is
That would
bullshit.
well,
Which
that
is
would change
bullshit.
everything if the American people actually knew what happened on 9/11.
But the American people know.
Even this much.
We know, right? Just like
We know.
JFK. So you have Donald Trump who talks about bombs in the building on 911. You have Robert F. Kennedy Jr. who talks about JFK being murdered, who talks about his father being murdered, right? So
And it just came out last year on record that Oswald wasn't the shooter. And nobody seems to really care about that.
I mean,
listen, folks, the person who they said didn't do it, it was an FBI hit operation that came out as a fact. Dan Bongino brought this out in his show. I think it was like 6 months ago, and he said people they're too
I mean, they can't. I mean,
down by transgender bullshit and racism bullshit. That the fact that
this
goes
goes back.
Oswald did not shoot the president. It just flew over everybody's head.
This is what I learned
How
with
does
the
that
David.
fly over people's head?
This goes back to the David Crowley issue. This is why I am so careful about the David Crowley issue. Okay, when you start naming people and you start saying these people are a part of it, you better have your facts in line. Okay, you better have everything in line.
Exactly.
It is better to say JFK was not killed by one person than to say I know who killed JFK.
That's
problem
the words
is
allegedly are
wow,
very
but that's
important
but that's not what a journalist does.
Libtards never right. It's what a journalist should do.
Yeah, it's
but
what a
they
journalist
don't.
should do. Yeah.
Isn't that
But
interesting?
well, then they're not journalists there.
Right.
And so, I mean, that's why it goes back. I take that thing, the journalistic integrity that I don't have, but that I want to have, that I wanted to achieve.
You do have journalist integrity, though.
I mean, I want to really, say, look, man, let's not focus on who killed JFK. Let's focus on the fact that one person did not kill JFK.
Well, let's focus on the fact that it's already been revealed that.
But they want to say, well,
have been
the
declassified.
CIA did it, or this people did that. Look, dude, don't tell me that
the
the whole
declassified record said that there was FBI involvement, but it wasn't Oswald.
Right,
So
right.
we
So
were told
that
it was
proves-
Oswald since when? The 60s?
Right. So that proves there was at least two people, which is a
Exactly.
conspiracy,
Which is
right?
the definition of a conspiracy.
But they don't want to focus on that. They want to go and they want to create their own
That's-
theories on top of theories. And it's like, man, that's really not helping, because let's stay focused on, look, there are many people that have never heard about the JFK conspiracy, just like the David Crowley
It's a
thing.
fact
They've
now. It's not
never
even
heard about it.
conspiracy anymore. It's a
Right.
fact.
But I mean, once you get past that point to say, look, one person could not have done this, then you can really say, okay, you can believe whatever you want, but at least recognize what they told us was not true.
Right. So
the official theory is not
conspiracy therapists are proved right again. That there's no way that
Well,
somebody shooting from the front can
the
put a bullet
problem
out the back of the head.
the problem with a lot of the conspiracy theorists, in my
Let me
opinion,
reverse that just for
in
those
my
people,
opinion,
just to be correct. Shooting from the back can put a bullet through the front of the head. That's I'd say. Yeah.
but there are a lot of them that take that and then they create their own theory on what did happen, which is exactly what the government did.
It's
which
already
is
been
exactly
declassified
what
now,
but
though.
It's what the Warren
Nobody
Commission
cared.
did.
You know
The
what's
Warren
coming up
Commission.
next, right?
What's that?
9/11. A lot of. So here's the way it works, folks. When they block and seal, they only have 25 years to seal those records. That's where some of the facts came out about Operate the Northwoods and some of these other false flags. So you have 25 years for 9/11. So 9/11 happened in 2001. So 2026. So we only have 2.5 or so years until we learn the truth about that. And when you learn the truth about 9/11, are people going to just shrug their shoulders just like they did with JFK? Because, I mean, it's already come out. Oswald wasn't the shooter. You can look it up, right? You can Google that shit, folks, right now. It's already been declassified. But the U.S. government has 25 years to declassify certain things. And 9/11 in 2 years is going to be 2.5 years is going to be declassified. And you're going to learn more. And you know what? The apathy, though, bro, it's going to be like, oh, well. Yeah, I knew that. I knew Building 7 shouldn't have come down its own footprint at free fall speed. It wasn't even hit by a building from office fires, but I knew that. But who cares? I'm a woman.
Hear me roar. Hear me
I'm a
roar.
woman. My junk got just distract. Look at the disclosure about alien life. All the alien sightings lately.
Yeah. What do
Out
you
of
think
nowhere.
about that? What do you think about that? Where they all of a sudden come out and say, "Hey, there's UFO," but
throw it in your face.
then they debunk it, right? They say, "Well,
Crazy.
it's crazy," but
The
at
only
least
thing
they're
that Greg
talking
and I
about it.
will completely debunk when we're together is flat Earth.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, come on. I can look at every other planet, every other star, everything else out there. Look at our moon. They're all round, but you're gonna tell me the Earth is flat? No. If the Earth was flat, you wouldn't see it.
Just
first
call
of
it a
all.
matrix. It's a win-win.
It's just another thing
It's
to
a
really
win-win if you call it a
divide
matrix.
people.
All right. I mean, buy a
But
high-power telescope or something.
well, if we're going to talk about the Matrix, maybe there is some truth to that, because I've heard some interesting theories on that. And obviously, as a Christian, what you may call the Matrix as a Christian, I may just call God moving,
Thank you.
God creating.
Doesn't that make a lot of sense?
It's just the same thing,
It's
even
flat,
if
though.
it's the same
Flat.
thing. But maybe it's a flat. Maybe God wants
Well,
people to see it flat. Maybe He wants
I mean,
other
they're
people
just getting you to
to
argue
flat.
about some other ridiculous thing that can
Exactly.
never be proved.
So we all go back, and this is the thing, Eric, for our children and our grandchildren and their grandchildren. These are the things they're going to have to deal with. They're being hit with so
Yes.
many things. What
There was
is
actually millions of people that were like, Earth's flat.
right?
Flatards. I got something to say to you
And
guys.
all
real
of
quick.
this,
2024, there's several countries building these only super rich people can take them up. But I mean, you don't have to be super rich. You just have to have some money that are going to be up so far. Have you heard about these structures they're building? They go way up so you can actually see the curb. What are you going to say then? Fisheye lens again?
they're
Come on, folks.
building a ladder to heaven, like in South
Right.
Park.
Right. And I can almost understand being a Christian like you, as far as I'm saying that these aren't planets, they're wandering stars. And I can get that. That even builds more into the matrix.
They are moving. I mean, there is a moon that moves around this planet. You
Listen,
can see it. You
people,
can see the curvature. You can see the rainbows. How a rainbow goes like this. I saw what they call a double rainbow the other day. I'm like, this also proves this is a spear. We're not living on a flat Earth. We're living on a spear.
If you
The
ever
rainbow.
want to debate this, and I don't know if we're on a turtle's back or in a matrix, whatever, but
a turtle's
if you
back
want to
would be
win a
great.
debate with a flat earther, I've never ever had an answer to this. And I debated the great Eric Dubay and Mark Sargent before, and they have no answer for this. So
Are they're
give you
flat
this.
earthers?
Oh yeah, some of the most prolific.
Which
flat
they're
earthers.
probably nice people. They're probably good people that
You never
really
heard of Eric
believe.
Dubay or Mark Sargent? They're the most. Anyway, ask them about an eclipse. Ask them to explain an eclipse, and they're like, eclipse. That's it. Don't debate anything else. Don't debate the water fine tone
Simulated.
level.
It's a simulated.
Ask them to explain an eclipse, and they can't.
I mean, how do
because
they
it doesn't
look at?
work on their flat Earth model?
So,
Straight
what
up.
did these flat earthers say about our moon? What do they think about the moon?
It's
That-
enclosed system. It's a. Well, I mean, which one?
It's a
A lot of
circular.
people say it's a
flat
hologram.
circuit. It's a
A
flat
hologram.
It's a
freaking-
hologram. Okay, it's a hologram. So
It's a
then
big Truman Show thing.
aren't we a hologram?
Dangling
Then?
from the ceiling of the firmament, which is a big glass thing over the.
And all the other stars are. And who is dangling all those things? Who is? Yeah, I don't know. It just gets into so many thinkers like
Those guys are the whole thing is if you want to Just ask if you're in a debate. Some of you gonna thank me for that. You should send me. In fact, my PayPal is SpitfireBoxing, PayPal.com. No, but
Which I want to take one day. I want to take one
ask
day.
them. Just say, how do eclipse work on a flat Earth model?
Okay,
and they're done because they can't. How do you explain an eclipse? See, their model is how like the sun and the moon. They
which is all round. It's all
how does the
round.
eclipse work? How's the eclipse come?
Which
Did
is
the
round.
machine just stop playing for a second? And then it's just, and how does the sun and the moon fit perfectly together to make an eclipse?
Yeah.
How does that happen? Flat earthers. We'll wait.
I mean, all it does really take away from God. It really takes away from Jesus Christ.
But
it takes away from the main
they claim
thing.
they claim that the flat earth brings you closer to God because they quote some random shit out of the
Okay.
Bible about
All right.
that
Well,
the God created the firmament above and below.
Okay.
Suddenly the firmament equals enclosed system and water above us.
Okay.
They believe
Well, that
they
brings
believe
you,
it's all water above us, not
even though it's not in the Bible.
Right.
It's not
Gravity
in the
doesn't
Bible.
exist.
It's not what
Yeah,
Scripture says.
it's crazy, man. You know, and that's it's
That's
awesome.
fine. It's fine.
We debate about a lot of things, man, but we
We
never
do.
about this
We do.
topic because this
Yeah, we
topic is just a divide and conquer thing, man, without a doubt. Just
Yeah.
again, flat earthers, explain eclipses to me, and I'll shut up. You can't. You never have been able to. You're freaking generals like Eric Dubay and Mark Sargent in live.
Who is
debate.
Eric Dubay? Who are these people?
Eric Dubay's like written books. He's like the number one flat earther dude. He's got like 10 million people following him and shit.
Does he have any government funding or anything like that?
Probably. But, I mean, it's just explain an eclipse. That's it. Just like 9/11. I don't want to hear how
Are they Christians? Is Eric Dubay a Christian too? Or
no. God no. No. He's as new age as it gets. But again, like 9/11, I don't want to hear about how jet fuel can melt steel, even though I'll give you building 1 and 2. Explain building 7 to me. Explain it. Wasn't hit by a plane. A 47-story steel skyscraper collapsed into its own footprint and free fall speed. That's under 10 seconds, folks. From
Yeah.
fires. Explain that one to me. Because we get hung up on this.
That's
Go
before
to
the internet,
source.
right? Now that would have probably been censored, right? They would have
Game
censored.
over, done. NIST in its own report on 9/11 said that building 7, again, a 47-story steel skyscraper, collapsed its own footprint in less than 10 seconds from office fires.
Yep.
I remember debating Anus 19. Remember that clown about this?
Yes.
And he couldn't come up with anything to come back. So again,
you've debated many people about
with
this.
9/11, it's building 7. With flat Earth, it's eclipses. You win. Game over. Simple as that. Freaking stop with fucking 9 hours of debating. You can win like that. Eclipses, building 7. You win every time.
Yeah, that's right.
There's no, well, the office fires could have, and some of the parts that came off the buildings that flew on.
It flew to the next building. Right?
8 hours later, those office fires certainly could have made it collapse into its own footprint. It's
across the street.
Right.
And then they never look at Barry Jennings, right? They never look
None
at
of it,
any of his
man.
testimony where he talks about walking over bodies. How is he walking over bodies before the building falls? Before anything? How is Barry Jennings talking about people that are that he walks into these rooms and there's and it's a ghost town. There is literally hot coffee. He can see the steam from hot coffee. People have just left this building. Why did Barry Jennings not get this warning? Well, look into who Barry Jennings was. Look into what his job was. Look into what he was doing. And you can clearly see why he was expendable. And they always look for the expendable people here. There was no reason to take down Building 7. that is one
There
of the
actually
most-
was a reason to, though, because that was where a lot of the Enron documents were, the billion-dollar corporation that went bankrupt, and many
Okay,
other,
so
many other Department of Defense documents were. In fact, Building 7, that is where that $3.1 billion with a B, dollars were misplaced. Donald Rumsfeld, Department of Defense director, came out and told us about that $3.1 billion it was misplaced. That was in Building 7 too, folks.
right, but that's a little obvious.
Can't make
That's
it's
a little
that
obvious.
It is that
So if a plane doesn't hit that building, it's pretty obvious. And
It's obvious.
maybe that's part of their plan. Maybe that's what they wanted.
Just like
They
the
wanted
missile, I mean the plane that hit the Pentagon, hit it just right in the exact
Well,
corner.
I mean,
where
they
all the financial records were. Anyway,
you can't put it past these evil scumbags to create a scenario where good people will react to these
they do
to
play a
these
gentleman's game, though.
crimes.
They put it right in your face, just like Building 7, just like the stuff we're talking about right now. They put it right in your face, and people
And they
eat it up.
challenge you.
A lot of
So-
people eat it up. Yeah, I mean, you're like what do they call them? 3%ers. You're like the 3%, Greg. You and I, and some people that listen to the show.
Me?
Most people do not think like that. They don't really care, man. Tell you the truth. They're just like, again, JFK, Oswald. It's a fact. Oswald didn't, and it's been declassified. Didn't do it, and it was a CIA FBI operation. That's a fact, and that has been declassified by our own government. And people are like, all right, nothing.
Yeah.
Same thing. My fear is that in 2 years, when it's declassified, that Building 7 didn't collapse from office fires. People are gonna be like, "Oh well,
That's okay. I mean, all right.
oopsie."
Well, they're going to be more. I
Ukraine's
mean,
still standing.
this is why they want them to be more worried about Trump.
I'm more worried about the fact that if I'm a man, that I can make a baby. Which
Right.
they can already do
They
that
want you to
too.
focus on that. They want you to
They can
focus on
do
that.
though. Some of these people out there saying that a man can't have a baby, incorrect, because some of the methods they have.
No, they can't. A man cannot have a baby.
They can grow an
No.
embryo. They can grow an embryo outside.
Not
of
without the
body.
devil. Not without
Hold
the
on.
devil.
No,
Not without the devil. That is not
they
natural.
can't grow embryos outside the body.
No, not naturally. No, absolutely
Okay,
not.
naturally, but they can
Yeah.
grow embryos. They can grow
That's
babies.
not growing
outside the
natural.
human body.
No, that's
They can
magic. That's black magic.
Yes, but they
That's
can do
not
it.
natural.
They can
No,
create
well, they
babies,
can
though,
do anything.
outside
The
them.
paranormal.
It
the
does not
paranormal-
take a woman to create a baby.
Look at what the devil can do. If the devil can tempt Jesus Christ for 40 days and 40 nights, that's black magic too.
What I'm telling you is that you can take a sperm sample and an egg and artificially make a baby that way. You do not have to have it inside a woman.
artificially, but not
So what they're-
naturally.
Well, here's what they're doing now with this whole
It's
trans
not
thing. Here's the
natural.
next thing.
Yep.
Hear me out. They're going to take that and implant them inside men.
Right, but they
And then they're gonna
want
say they have babies.
but they want our children and our grandchildren
Yes.
to think that that's natural. It's
Yeah,
not.
it's fucked up, bro.
It's not. It's not
been
natural.
fucked up.
No. That is
But that'll be the
black
left's
magic.
next thing,
That
man.
is
That'll be the libtards'
witchcraft.
next thing.
That's
Look, I
witchcraft.
can't have a baby. They implanted this in me, and look, a baby came out. Because they can do
A baby
that.
came out of what? What's a baby come out? Come out of your dick? Come out of your
No,
butt?
no. It's
a
possible.
C-section.
What-
It's a
what-
C-section.
What's the word for it? No, but they have babies that are
There is
made
no man that can
artificially.
have a baby come out of them naturally.
All it takes is sperm and an egg, and they
It
can
ain't
put them
coming out of your
together.
butt. It ain't coming out of your butt.
can
It ain't
impl-
coming
yeah,
out
it
of your
could.
penis. Where is
Wait
it
for
coming
it,
out?
folks, because it's going to come out of these
Baby
big
coming out of your butt.
You're
Yeah,
gonna say,
like,
"Look, I
okay.
can have a baby." I'm
Come out
telling
of
you,
your
it's
butt.
coming.
No,
You
the
think it
baby
sounds
comes
crazy.
out of the womb. The baby comes out of your vagina. If you don't have a vagina, you cannot have a baby. If you have a baby that comes out of your butt, comes out of your dick, that is not a baby. There's something else going on. That is black magic. That is where
Well,
what
of
the
course
devil
it is,
wants.
but it's been happening for a long time.
I've never heard of a baby coming out of somebody's butt.
No, well, not. I mean, they could if they wanted to plant it there, but I'm talking
Where?
about-
I've never heard of that. I've never heard of it coming out of somebody's dick either. So
You've never heard of genetically engineered babies.
how do they come out?
It's been going on since the 60s.
How do they come out though?
Well, they don't come out of a human. They come out of a artificial womb.
Come out of a glass jar type thing?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yep. That would, in a nutshell, yeah.
I mean, they're not coming out of your ass. They're not coming out of your dick.
Right.
So a man cannot have a baby come out of them.
Stem
period.
cell babies, man. I mean, they've been around for a long time. I'm sure you know about them.
Yeah, but that's not.
You can
that's
produce
not-
a baby without having an actual mom to have the baby. It's been going on for like 70 years, man, since the 60s.
Yeah, probably
Artificial
longer
wombs.
too. Yeah.
So I'm just saying, how long before they put it in these trannies' butts and be like, "Look, I had a baby." Seriously,
long-
dude, I
how
wish I was
long?
kidding. I wish I was kidding, but that's next. They'll be
Yeah.
like, "See proof." It's crazy, right?
No, I know. No, I mean the
You understand what I'm saying? Like,
oh yeah,
that's-
yeah.
that's
No,
where
no.
they're
The
going with
biggest
it.
thing that I always get whenever I talk about is a man and a woman. That's it. Well, what about hermaphrodites? Right? It's like, well, they have both. It's like that's not normal. That's not normal. I'm not saying that that's their fault or anything. Why they're born like that.
Dude,
but
look at
that's
this article
not
here.
normal.
Chinese scientists create AI nanny to look after embryos in artificial womb. Can't make this shit up, bro. Chinese scientists create AI nanny to look after embryos in artificial womb.
Right. Which is more cloning, but it's not. It's has nothing to do with the natural reproductive system created by God. So
Correct.
that's why I cling to your Bible, cling to what the Scripture tells us, because this is what they're going to try to do. And if we don't have the Bible, which we always will, because God will always be here, He'll always have people like us to remind people the Bible is truth. But you're going to have a lot of people that are going to be like, well, wait a minute. Okay, well, maybe it doesn't just take a man and a woman. When, yes, it does. To create a natural
according
person.
to this, it doesn't. Artificial wombs, the coming era of motherless births.
Have you seen the Man of
This is
Steel?
what they're freaking setting you up for. This is what, I mean, you're talking about, Carl Sagan talked about this.
Yeah, they all talk about it, but it's like fear-based when
It's already
they
happening, though.
really should just be saying, I mean, come on. It's black.
Scientifically, it's called ectogenesis, a term coined by JBS Haldane in 1924. A hugely influential
Which is
science
probably not
popularizer.
a Christian either, right? It's just all these people that want to make something natural that is unnatural, that are not Christians because they don't like Jesus Christ.
Haldane predicted that by 2074, this would account for more than 70% of births.
Oh, please. That's never going to happen.
It's already,
There's too many people in China for that to happen.
whether Haldane's view will prove correct about the scientific timing of ectogenesis. Look it up.
Can you
folks.
share that? Can you share that? That's just
Yeah, I can share it.
I don't know if I can get rid of my thing so you can share it or not. That may enable you to share it.
Oh, I gotta copy and put it in the other window.
Okay. I mean, it's crazy. And this is what they're going, but it's all to discount from what the Bible tells us.
Exactly. That's why I want to
Discount
get into this,
Scripture tells
because in discussing the idea in his work, Daedalus, a reference to the inventor in Greek mythology, who through his invention strived to bring humans to the level of gods. Haldane was diving into issues of his time, namely eugenics and the first widespread debate over contraception and population control. It's all right here laid out, folks. You want me to share it? Hang on, I'll copy and paste it. and then I'll share it. There we go. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba, eugenics. Oh, I think we lost Greg. We lost Greg, so I won't be able to share it. Well, I think that's the end of the show, folks. Thanks for hanging out with Greg and I. Welcome.
Let's do it that way.
Welcome to the Resistance. Peace.
All right. Sorry, just came back here. Had to get back on. Lost my stream. Okay. Let's see. Get back into some of this.
And also, Caitlin, also, as you know, we got the biggest regulation and regulatory cuts. This place was rocking, and then we.
That.
Joining us now with more, Florida Congressman Byron Donalds is with us. Sir, how are you? Great to have you.
I'm doing good, Sean.
Well,
Good to be with you.
I got to see some clips of you later. You were up against, 4 or 5 liberals all at once. It's like, 4 or 5 on one. But you got your points across. What is it about Donald Trump, or any conservative for that matter, that seems to trigger the mob and the media?
It's because when you have conservatives who are committed to the facts and frankly, who are not afraid to dish those facts out left and right. You mentioned last night it was 4, 5, 6, 10. The number doesn't really matter. When you're prepared with the right information, the truth, and you're not afraid to dish it out, they don't know how to respond to that. So the immediate thing is they typically lash out. Look, last night, I'm just trying to make a comment, and already 3, 4, and 5 of them are trying to jump in. But you got to stay focused, because at the end of the day, the truth of what is happening in this country is what matters more than anything that silly reporters try to talk about. I mean, look at our current president. This guy has 3 bank failures and has lost 3 embassies on his watch. That's a disaster for America. And so it requires Republicans and conservatives to be strong in this position, be armed with the facts, and go into any situation and don't take their bait. Come with the facts and push back hard.
And this network is known for lying for 3 long years, being wrong about so-called Trump-Russia collusion that never happened. We got it right on this program. Thankfully, we've been vindicated now many times, starting with the Horowitz report. Let me ask you specifically about what town hall should be about, because I felt like Caitlin Collins was really doing a job for her fellow, quote, journalists that are not journalists. They're talk show hosts like me. They're just not honest. And not for the people. Because I think if you ask somebody, a candidate, a question, whether you agree with the answer or don't agree with the answer, why don't you let them finish the answer and then do a follow-up question and say, well, then why didn't A, B, or C happen? Why did she feel that she had to be the special pleader for all things left wing?
I mean, well, look, personally, I think it was her own Super Bowl. I mean, look, Caitlin's been doing this a long time. I've done interviews with her on that network, and I think that this was her time in the spotlight, being opposite the number one guy in our party, being Donald Trump. So I think that's part of it. Number two, it was clear that CNN's position was to do anything they could to keep bringing up all of the old stuff, all of the narratives that they continue to push, and to ignore the realities of what's happening in America today. And so I credit President Trump for, frankly, keeping his composure with this onslaught from her and being focused on the things that matter to the voters of our country and not to the political class and not to the punditry that, frankly, has gotten it wrong so much more than it's gotten it right.
And by the way, have we not litigated January 6th to death? Have we not litigated the 2020 election to death? Aren't elections about the future? We now have an economy where 60% of our fellow Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. Do we not see China on the march? No consequences for a spy balloon that flew all around our country. No consequences for Russia taking out one of our drones. No active response by Joe Biden when you have an alliance of China, Russia, Iran. That should scare every American, in my view.
No, you're absolutely right. But the press, especially the liberal press, they can't focus on the present. Look at what we brought out through the Oversight Committee under the leadership of James Comer. We've documented that Joe Biden and his family have taken money from the Chinese and from Romania. We've documented that. They don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about the southern border, all the things, Sean, that you talk about. The only thing that will keep their agenda alive, and at the end of the day, America, it is about the radical left agenda for the press. It's about that agenda. And the only thing that keeps that agenda alive is to talk about the past and to talk about these other things. I think American voters, they understand what happened on January 6th. It really was a really tough day for our country, but they're looking at what's going on now and they're looking towards the future. And we need a commander-in-chief who's focused on getting America back on track.
All right, Congressman Byron Donalds, thank you. We appreciate you being with us. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.
Town halls are for the voters, not for the press, not for the person who's the moderator. Caitlin spent more time interjecting her own viewpoints or her own views on the situation.
Excuse me, those are actually facts.
Now, are you guys not going to interject your views on me, or do I get a chance to speak now?
If you're speaking falsely, those were facts.
The town hall is for the president to speak to the voters of New Hampshire, not for this back and forth with media. That's number one. Hold on. That's number one. Number two, with respect to Ukraine, I totally disagree. He did not say he was just going to give over Ukraine the way you intimate, Van. He did not say that.
He didn't say what he said. He did not say that he would stand for a victory.
What he said is that he would actually look for a solution to end it quickly. He put 24 hours on it, but let's be very clear. What Joe Biden has done has been a disaster because initially with Ukraine, Joe Biden wanted to give Vladimir Zelensky a ride out of Dodge. He wanted to give him a plane ride. And it wasn't until people in Moscow, in Ukraine, here in the United States said this invasion is wrong that Joe Biden reversed course.
Do you want a victory in Ukraine? Do you want a victory in Ukraine?
I'm just trying to respond to everything that's been coming up on the table. Last thing, let me say this. We spent 22, 23 minutes talking about January 6th. We could have been talking about a whole lot of other issues instead of doing that for the first half hour or so. But let me be very clear. What was said in this town hall about National Guard troops that were authorized by Caitlin was wrong. I'm on the Oversight Committee. I was in 2 hearings on January 6th. It was testified in oversight that Donald Trump authorized National Guard troops on January 4. He followed up in a call with then acting Secretary of Defense on January 5, trying to see where the deployment was on those troops. That is testimony in the Oversight Committee. Everybody testified in Oversight Committee when Nancy Pelosi was Speaker of the House, except one organization, and that was the Capitol Police.
Did you read the
because
Secretary
Nancy
of
Pelosi
Defense's
would
book?
not allow that. I'm telling you what was testified to in the Oversight Committee under oath.
But let me just correct you, because what Caitlin was saying was what the former Secretary of Defense wrote in his book. He said the president did not.
I am telling you what he testified to under oath in the Oversight.
I think that's a big thing. Under oath. under oath is definitely a big difference than whatever you write in a book or whatever you say to somebody. When you're under oath, that is what Byron Donalds is talking about, under oath. So I want to go back to that because these are the things he's saying under oath. They're saying, well, this person said that, this person said that. No, when you're under oath, that is a big, big difference. Let's go back to that.
Committee.
Congressman, can I just ask?
Are the facts? Go ahead.
You do acknowledge Donald Trump lost the 2020 election, correct?
Again, we're going to continue to talk about 2020.
No, I mean, it's a direct
right
question.
now. Hold on. What he testified to under oath in the oversight committee.
Congressman, can I just ask?
Are the facts? Go ahead.
You do acknowledge Donald Trump lost the 2020 election, correct?
Again, we're going to continue to talk about 2020.
No, I mean, it's a direct
right
question.
now. Hold on. Let me tell you why most voters are frankly kind of tired of y'all bringing this up. Inflation, border.
You don't have the courage to express your opinion about what
I'm a Republican voter. I'm a Republican voter.
Voters want to talk about inflation, the border, fentanyl, the debt ceiling, foreign policy. If you want to talk about the 2020 election, let's talk about this. We do know that Mark Elias was in many jurisdictions suing to actually change election procedures, which, by the way, is at the hands of the state legislature in every state, according to the Constitution, not in the hands of courts, not in the hands of the Supreme Court, the state legislature. We do know that to be a fact. We do know that true.
You won't state your opinion about factually what happened in the 2020
You guys
election?
want me to make a statement. This is, Frank, let me tell you right now. This is what's
No, I
frustrating.
want you to just
This is what's
speak the truth.
frustrating to a lot of people. You want me to state it the way you want me to state
No,
it.
I don't.
am telling you.
I want you to just
the
answer the
ideas
question.
and the
Do you
reasons behind why certain people
do you
look at
believe
the
the election
2020
was
election
rigged?
the way that they do.
I understand why
Now,
some people
moving
believe it.
forward
Do
into
you?
2024, a couple of things are very, very clear. The nation is a mess. Our border is overrun. Inflation is crippling every family, Republican, Democrat, Independent. Those are the facts of the matter in 24, not 2020.
Can I just ask you a question?
Not 2020.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
And I understand that you don't feel that the last election and questions about the last election and the insurrection should be part of the discussion now. But since the president was there, since he was the one who was propagating these stories about a rigged election, and he repeated it again tonight, since he was the one who rallied the crowd that stormed the Capitol that he celebrated tonight, I want to ask you this one thing, because I was interested when he was talking about his case that was decided yesterday by a jury, and he said, well, that was rigged. It was a Clinton-appointed judge. A lot of Trump-appointed judges threw out these allegations of election rigging. Should they be trusted because they're Trump-appointed judges, or are they rigged too?
Listen, every candidate that runs for office, everyone, I've run for office, you're allowed to contest an election. We all have that ability. You have the ability to go to court and do
And
that
when a
and
decision
all those
is
types of
rendered?
things. He's had the ability to do it. Right now, he was making a statement very clearly about how he still feels about the 2020 elections, but he's also looking forward prospectively. The point I'm making is Caitlin didn't want to do that. She wanted to hang in and continue to talk about the 2020 elections until she got the answer she wanted. Let's be very clear on that one.
Listen, I want to say on Caitlin's behalf, she did a masterful job of fact-checking a lie machine in real time in front of millions of people. It is very, very difficult to do what she did. I mean, nobody's going to do it perfectly, but it is incredibly difficult to talk to somebody who is going to say things. Sometimes they're true, sometimes they're not true. I don't think anybody here thinks that Donald Trump is a paragon of truth-telling. I thought Caitlin did a masterful job. She's a matador against
While
the bull.
facing sexist attacks throughout. And I mean, I'm someone who cares about securing the border, lowering inflation. Why can't Ron DeSantis do that? Why can't Chris Sununu do that? There's a plethora of Republican candidates who want to do the things for our country that I know you want to do and that I want to do and David Urban wants to do. Why is it a man who's twice impeached, who's been indicted, who's been just held liable for sexual abuse? That's the best and only person who just once again called a woman
I'm
a
gonna leave the
sexist
indictment
child.
alone for a second, but let's be very clear. The reason why is because Republican voters want him to come back.
Because he's lied
They
to
don't-
them
Hold on,
incessantly.
Stop. He actually did the job. You know that. And frankly, he did the job better than the current president right now. And that is indisputable. Name the issue. Donald Trump did it better.
How about infrastructure? We had infrastructure week every
You
week.
mean the bloated bill that they passed through that they still haven't started constructing on?
I
man?
mean the
Come
zero
on,
bill that you passed. You had infrastructure
on,
week
man.
every week for 4 years and never got one
Is there
done.
anything that look, I accept that. I think that he probably, if I were his political advisors, I actually would say, this is what we wanted. We got what we wanted. He was talking to his base, and he rallied
his base. If I was his lawyers, I'd be deeply concerned about what he said tonight. But is there anything that would exclude him, even if he is someone who Republican voters want back in office because of the things he did in terms of policy? Like, could he go out and kill somebody? Is there anything that would be that you would consider beyond the pale, or would you just set everything aside and say, well, this is what people want, so those picadillos we're going to let alone?
At the end of the day, this is always going to be at the hands of the voters. The voters are going to decide who they want to support. Polling would dictate that they want to support Donald Trump by a wide margin in the Republican Party. I will also say the ABC polling is pretty clear that Americans writ large want to support him over Joe Biden.
So polling has come up, so I now have to intervene.
To the radical left and the putrid swamp. You're listening to the Dan Bongino Show. Here he is, Dan Bongino.
All right, I'm always excited to welcome back to the show a man who hopefully will be the next president of the United States, a good friend to the show, a good friend to me personally, President Donald J. Trump. Mr. President, thanks for joining us.
Hello, Dan.
Mr. President, we got the report yesterday. Everything you said was correct. This is one of those hashtag Donald Trump was right again moments. Sir, you were framed. You were framed. They had no evidence of any of this from the start. Your thoughts on that?
They thought they were going to lose, and we were indeed framed, and it really pertained more because they missed the dates, and amazingly, the report wasn't picked up until just after the election. If you remember, I think it was BuzzFeed, which is now essentially out of business, I understand, which is a very good thing for the country with bad news. But this was done sometime after the campaign. It actually affected, if you look at it and really study it, it really affected 2020 much more because we went through years of nonsense with Russia. I didn't even know what they were talking about. People would come up to me, sir, do you know anything about Russia? And after a while, I'd say, what's going on with Russia? It was a frame up. And these are bad people. This is Schiff and Clinton and all. These are bad people, but it was much more than them. Mark Elias. You take a look at what they did. And this really affected 2020 more than it affected 2016. Right. It was meant for 2016, but they couldn't get it off. You know, they had this fake dossier written by Steele and who was offered millions in order to try and get it confirmed. And he couldn't get it confirmed. He couldn't get anybody to confirm it because it was all fake. It was like you write a fiction book. And but this really affected the 2020. Another thing in the 2020 election, which was totally rigged, by the way, incredibly how they didn't want to talk about that, Dan. They didn't want to talk or rig. But all you have to do is take a look at the 51 intelligence agencies. That's rigging it. Take a look at Truth to Vote. These are great patriots, Catherine Engelbrecht, and these are great patriots. Went around for a year, took all of the tapes out. She sold all of the stuffing the ballot boxes that took hundreds of thousands of votes, stuffing the ballot boxes that took place. And just you take a look at just Twitter and the FBI. And that's all modern day stuff. That doesn't even go back that far. But now they found out much later about Twitter and the FBI, the 51 intelligence agencies saying it was Russian disinformation, and everyone knew, every single one of them knew it wasn't. No, it had a huge impact on the 2020 election.
Yeah. Mr. President, they interfered in multiple elections. 2016, the midterms with the impeachment, 2020 with their interference with Twitter to make the Hunter Biden story disappear. But Mr. President, I think the most stunning line from the Durham thing, the Durham report that came out yesterday, is that they never possessed, quote, any actual evidence of collusion, and that Obama, Biden, Lynch, and Comey, who you thankfully fired, they knew in July of 2016, this whole thing was you being framed by Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, this was a coup. And if I didn't fire Comey, probably you wouldn't have made it. I wouldn't have made it. This great administration that did so much wouldn't have made it. Because Comey, this was a whole coup. They were ready to go in. You know, it's interesting. When I fired Comey, it was like throwing a rock at a hornet's nest. They went crazy in the FBI. That's when we found out that the insurance policy. Remember with Strzok and Page, the insurance policy. What do you do? Remember that line? What do you do? He's going to win. He's going. No, he'll never win. It's 100 million to 1, right? That was by Jesse. He said, but if he does, we have an insurance policy. This was all the insurance policy. This is sick.
Yeah.
But, we found that one, and then we found out a lot of others, and the whole thing blew up in their face. But had I not fired Comey, and it all blew up because everyone went wild when I fired, were all fighting for the job, and they didn't care about him at that point. They just wanted to take care of themselves. But it all blew up. If I didn't fire Comey, he would have walked in with Strzok and Page and this one and McCabe, and they would have said, "Sir, I'm sorry, but the Russia thing." I said, "What Russia thing?" Can you imagine if you would have been taken out of office for something that you never even heard about? And these are bad people. These are sick people. I remember, and I told you the story where they walked out, where Adam Schiff, the crooked guy, such a crooked guy, little Adam Schiff, he walks out, Shifty Schiff, he walks out to the press. He wasn't supposed to because he was in a meeting of so-called intelligence, right? But he walks out to the press and he says, "Donald Trump Jr. will go to jail for life for what he's done here." And he knew it was a phony thing. He's saying that a young man has to go to jail for life because of what he did on Russia. And he knew that it was a hoax. Think of how bad you have to be to say a thing like that.
And he's running for Senate, Mr. President. He's running for Senate right now, Adam Schiff.
Well, you know what? I hope maybe I should endorse him. You know what? I'll endorse him because that way he might lose in that area. I don't know. My endorsement is 99% in the Republican Party, but maybe what I'll do is I'll say, we got to get Adam Schiff in there. That's a great one.
Right. Do like an anti-endorsement, like a kryptonite endorsement. I like that. It's a good idea.
Endorse him. Anyway,
Mr. President,
honestly, it's such a horrible thing what took place.
Just a couple more questions. I know you've got to run. Thank you for calling in. I appreciate it. We're hoping you're going to be the next president of the United States. Now that you've experienced the FBI interfering in multiple elections, this is indisputable at this point. Can we get a promise from you for a house cleaning? The minute we get in office, don't wait. We don't need the first 100 days, just the first 100 minutes. We need everybody gone who cannot pledge allegiance to the Constitution and pledges allegiance to the Democrat Party first.
Well, after looking at the report and after seeing, and don't forget, I did a house fire. I fired a lot of people, but the deep state goes deep. Hey, firing Comey was not, that was, and I fired him very early. A lot of people said, "Why did you wait so long?" He was fired very, very early. And it was a great firing. I'm telling you, they were looking to do real bad. This was a coup that they were looking at. These are sick people. So, only a fool would not do that. You have to do it deep. Not only there, you have to do it in a lot of other locations. But, this continues. I don't know if you know, but we have a friend of Weissman, a very good friend of Weissman, it is Jack Smith. And his wife hates Trump, and he hates Trump, and they've campaigned against Trump. They spend money against Trump. Their friends hate Trump. And he's the special counsel. I call him the special persecutor, not prosecutor. Persecutor, because persecutor is worse. But Jack Smith, and he continues to go after Trump with the phony boxes hoax. And if you take a look at Biden, Biden's got boxes all over the place. He had no right to declassify. I do. But you just take a look, Jack Smith, this is a continuation of the same hoax. It's all a big hoax. They're all friends. Yeah. They're in there. They're embedded. And it's really a question. It's rhinos and it's Democrats, radical left Democrats. I love the way you start your show with the radical left. You fight the radical left. There's the radical left. And they've been there for years. And we've done a hell of a job on it. Boy, they don't want, you know how you know? Because they don't want me. But we have a hoax going on right now, and it should be stopped immediately by the Attorney General. It's a total charade.
Yeah, Mr. President, you had in your last administration, you were looking at Schedule F-ing employees, which would enable you to get rid of a lot of employees who cannot pledge allegiance to the Constitution. And of course, Joe Biden got rid of that because he wants to keep people in the swamp forever. Can we count on something like that after your presidency too, so we can again get people in there who pledge service to the public and not pledge service to the Democrat Party?
Right, and I was the one that suggested that. But if you take a look at NARA has red flagged the Constitution of the United States. I don't know if you know this, and they've red flagged the Bill of Rights because they said they're dangerous documents or something to that effect. So you have NARA, which is all radical left. That's the one that started this current hoax. But NARA, radical left NARA, has the Bill of Rights and the Constitution of the United States red flagged because they're dangerous documents. Okay, that's where we're coming from. And now we'll get it all taken care of, Dan. You know that.
But Mr. President, one
And we'll
last
start,
question.
by the way, by closing up our border and by drill, baby, drill, as I said on CNN the other night. They got one of the greatest ratings in their history, and they're going to throw the guy out. I think they're going to throw him out for putting me on.
Mr. President, I hate to correct you. You know I like you. You're my buddy, and I don't want to correct you on the air, but it's TNN, the Trump News Network. So please don't air that. It was a big mistake. Yeah. We're referring to it on this show only as TNN. So I hate to correct you. Not trying to embarrass you, young man, but I got to take care of it. One more question, Mr. President. Listen, everybody from the beginning knew the story was ridiculous, but a lot of people got taken down as collateral damage. General Flynn, an American patriot, this poor George Papadopoulos, who we learned yesterday, made exculpatory statements to a source in the FBI. In other words, said he had nothing to do with this at all. And then they went to the FISA court and said, no, he's involved in Russian collusion. I mean, a lot of people got taken down in addition to them trying to get rid of you.
Yeah, and they got taken down, and we're going to make amends to those people. People were treated so unfairly. And by the way, I know how you feel about it, but what about J6? We have policemen, firemen, soldiers, military people, phenomenal patriots in jail, but Antifa, BLM, and some of these other groups that killed people all over Portland and all over Seattle and all over Minneapolis and killed people and burned down the cities and took over the cities. Nothing happens to them. How about that? Would you want us to think about that a little bit too? I will be.
Yeah. Mr. President, I know you got to run. Thank you so much for calling in. You know you have my support. I deeply appreciate it. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it too. Thanks a lot, Dan. Bye.
You got it. There you go, folks. President Donald J. Trump. Some reaction to that after the break. We'll be right back.
As much as possible. But in recent times, President Biden said that one of our objectives, at least, is regime change of Vladimir Putin. And this is the same strategy that did not work well for us in Iraq. And it's many of the same people who are around the neocons, who are around President Biden, who have been talking about that for a long time and have been engaged in geopolitical machinations in the Ukraine since 2014. And then President Biden's Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, validated President Biden's statement by saying that our objective in the Ukraine is to exhaust and degrade the Russian army so they're incapable of having battles anywhere else in the world. Now, and indeed, many of the steps that we've taken in the Ukraine have seemed to indicate that our interest is in prolonging the war rather than shortening it. So if those are our objectives, to have regime change and exhaust the Russians, that is completely antithetical to a humanitarian mission. If we're there for a humanitarian mission, it means to reduce bloodshed and bring an end to the war quickly. If we're there to exhaust the Russians or regime change, then doesn't it mean that the Ukraine is just a pawn in a geopolitical battle between two great superpowers, and that our strategy is to put the flower of Ukrainian youth into an abattoir of death in order to exhaust Russia? And if that's true, then we need to know about it. If it's not true, then we need a pretty good discussion with the president and the Secretary of Defense and others to tell us exactly what are we doing there. And now, I want to talk just a little about some of the costs of the war. We've now committed $113 billion to the Ukraine. For reference, The entire budget of EPA is 12 billion. The budget of CDC is 11 billion. We have 57% of Americans. We have a crisis here. We have a war on the poor. 57% of Americans cannot put their hand on $1,000 if they have an emergency. 1/4 of Americans go to bed hungry.